On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick will have some skeleton crew character info to dump on your faces. Remember the Mandalorian Season 4 movie rumor? Yeah? Well, that's heating up again and may be a real thing, so the dudes will discuss that too. They'll then shift into a fun fan debate covering the top scenes from the prequels, Kenobi, and the Solo movie. Of course, the show will end with the question of the week responses and the latest round of top 5 Star Wars fan artist features. Punch it, Chewie.
Hey now, everybody. That's for you, Ralphie boy. That's right. If you're a Stern Show fan, you heard the news last week. Ralph Cirella at 58 is dead, which is crazy to think about, especially if you're someone like me that's been listening to the show for over 30 years. I've actually met Ralph and got to hang out with Ralph a few times back in my gaming media days when I'd head out there and get some opportunities through Geek Time, Ralph's show he used to do on Howard's channel. So I guess I don't want to start on a down note here. It's just a reminder to you all, especially you men out there that don't like feelings, kind of like me. You never know when one of your buddies could literally be dead the next day. So reach out, say hello, give them a high five. Life is precious, as they say. But we're here. And we're ready to have some fun. You know, we have been giving you the fruits of our labor for really the past month or so with these special topics. And we've got the first phase of what has turned into a massive special topic because I cannot control myself. You know, if we let Nick run the show, everything would be quick, tight, to the point. But when you let me get my hands into the recipe, things get a little more convoluted, a little more detailed than they probably need to be. So last week, one of you spit out there, hey, top scenes, that's an idea. And we are a podcast for the people. So of course we wrote that down and we considered it. And we were like, you know what, let's go ahead and make that the special topic. In my head, I was thinking we were going to get through all 9 films and the TV, mostly live action Star Wars. No problem, do it in a show until I started to sit down and mapping out my thoughts from the prequels to the sequels. And after an hour or so of regurgitating useless Star Wars movie scenes from my brain, I hit up young Nick and I'm like, listen, brother, I fucked this up. This is now going to be a multi-phase special topic. So this week, we're just zeroing in on the prequels, Kenobi, and Solo, because on paper, they kind of felt like an era to me, even though I know they are not. But you're just going to have to live with it. So this week, we're going to get the top scenes from the prequels, Kenobi, and Solo. Next part will be Andor through Return of the Jedi, and then we're thinking the final phase here. If we don't bump this out to 4, you never know. We might need to stretch the content, but we'll do the Mandoverse TV shows through the sequels. So lots of fun stuff to talk about. We have 23 moments highlighted from, and this is combined. It's not, I know some of you are like, holy shit, Matt came up with 23 moments from the prequels. He must be high already. Well, that's not.
How many of those are from AOTC?
I actually think most of my moments might be from
So we really have like 7 good moments and 16 moments from AOTC that I will ignore.
I always have to make my case to Judge Nick. Judge Nick he's a much more critical fan than myself these days. I've become a little bit more of just kind of the, I like Star Wars, blah, blah, one of those types of fans. Somewhat brainless, but I like it. So I'm sure you'll get some flame-throwing Nick coming out here. Let me know why I'm stupid, and that's why we do what we do. So it'll be fun. But before we get there, real quick, if you're on the live stream, if you're not on the live stream, go to hell. But if you want to get on the live stream, Tuesdays, 5 p. East, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. Real quick for a pop culture segment, because we don't have much to talk about. You guys talking about the Game Awards, good stuff there. Nick, he had himself a celebration for Baldur's Gate winning GOTY. Even though he has not completed the game, he still believes it was a righteous award.
Oh, yeah.
And
the best game, hands down. Probably the best game that was developed in the last 10 years.
Damn, man. And I respect your gaming opinion. I just think it's because I was relegated to the Steam Deck only, which the game runs fine on it, but not quite what you're going to get on a real rig. But anyways, for the sake of time here, because like I said, we got 23 moments to talk about, mostly from the prequels. So all you motherfuckers out there, they're like, oh, this guy is an old, washed up shithead that just yells at the clouds. They have a place in my heart. We'll call it a special place, as in that type of special, but there is a place for the prequels in my prequel not loving soul. But before we get there, real quick, especially you family motherfuckers out there, Family Switch on Netflix, great little family Christmas movie. Okay, we watched it this past Saturday with the Haywood gang, and my love for Jennifer Garner aside, I mean, I've loved this lady since Alias. She can do no wrong. It's funny as fuck, all right? And I don't think I was on too many drugs. I think they were good, natural belly laughs. So Family Switch, you've been looking for kind of a tangential, fun comedy type of Christmas movie to watch with the group, got you right there. Netflix has you covered. And Nick, I don't want to get into our business of streaming, but my God, have you seen... Max has essentially said, hey, Ted Sarandos, do you want all of our content now? Because here you go. I mean, they've got like all the DC shit now. It's wild what has shown up on Netflix that used to live on Max. So as you teased over the summer, it sounds like the Max CEO is like, hey, that young Nick, he had some good ideas. We're going to start leasing our content out to these other streamers.
Eventually, I'm going to ask these companies to start paying me for taking all of the ideas that I say on this show. But yeah, I mean, what's an easier way to make money than just say, hey, do you guys want the content that we already have? Pay me for it. So there you go. Yeah. That's how you get it done.
Every time I see it, I'm like, look at Nick, look at this motherfucker, not collecting a hot penny for his consulting. So I mean, we should start SWTS Consultants. We cover everything from pop culture to streaming business models. All right. Sign us up. I only charge $60 an hour for teaching, but if consulting, it's about $160 to $200. So those are our rates right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nick, we're going to try something new at the start of the show here. I've seen Beyond the Dune Sea do this. I think it's a good way to kind of get fans locked in. People like to feel special, like they're being called upon in class, like they're being highlighted. So in one of our stories this week, to prime you for our special topic, I asked, hey, anything for us? And I didn't think anyone would bite, but lo and behold, we actually did get 3 questions. So we may start doing this if we do get questions back, and it's not from the same person every week, but just questions for us instead of us asking you a question. We're still going to do question of the week. Don't worry. The 10 of you that reply every week will still get your time in the spotlight. But for now, we're going to try something a little new. We've got 3 questions coming from the SWTS community. All right, Nick, I've seen these, so I'll let you kind of tee off on them right away. This one comes from our buddy Rippick Tan. Haven't seen Rippick pop up in a while in the question of the week, so glad he got this one here. But he is asking us, out of the newer Star Wars projects, do you have a favorite piece of music that isn't Johnny Wills? I would focus you in on probably Mando and/or Ahsoka, Book of Boba.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the one that stands out the most to me is the Mandalorian theme song for obvious reasons. Like, it was really
Ludwig Göransson or whatever.
Ludwig Göransson, however you say his name. Yeah, I think that that theme was the first thing that we really heard for what is essentially now the Star Wars TV universe, and it not only set the standard for that show. Like, you can see that the other shows kind of specifically Book of Boba Fett and other connected Mandoverse properties have kind of like iterated on the Mandoverse theme to make their theme. Like specifically, like Book of Boba Fett is very, very similar to the Mandoverse theme or the Mandalorian theme song. So if there was one piece of music to me, it would definitely be the Mandalorian opening theme music.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Ludwig stuff. The guy has created 2 anthems in the Mando theme and then Boba's theme. I mean, no one's ever going to forget the Boba, especially at the end of the season where they actually just started saying Boba Fett, doo-doo-doo. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on, that's awesome. But I think, Rippick, for me, it's going to be a toss-up between, I think his name's Nicholas Britell and Kevin Kiner. Kiner's work on Ahsoka, I believe, was as close to Johnny Wills as a non-Johnny Wills has come. I think he incorporated a lot of memorable themes and kind of added his own twist to them. But really what Britell did in Andor in changing the intro music to every episode, changing the pace of it, the tone of it, the Neomos song. I mean, how there's been so many good songs, but yeah, I'll go with Kevin Kiner and Ahsoka for a final answer. Thank you.
Yeah,
all right. I like
that. Makes sense.
I like and those. I forget the one is Ishiga. I think that's Sabine's song. That's a kick ass. And then the other song outside of Neomos, Nick, the Adelphi bass track from Mando season 3. I forget the title, but that's another banger. All right, next question for you, young Nick, is, and this comes from Dago YJ. Why didn't the Jedi realize that Palpatine was a Sith? I'll let you take a stab at that.
I think that, Yoda kind of made mention of that when he was talking to Anakin and their separate, one-on-one sit down when Anakin was talking about his visions of the future. And, he mentioned that, things were clouded. The dark side is starting to cloud the Force, and it's making, seeing the future more unreliable than it already is. So what I think is that there was just kind of, it's almost like when there's a deep fog, like when there's a very heavy fog and you're trying to look forward through the fog and you can't really see anything. It's probably something similar that was happening in the Force at that time, is that, there was this unquestionable shroud of darkness that was kind of laying over everything. Like there was this specter of darkness that was just kind of, taking up space in the Force. And it was so thick that they couldn't tell where it was coming from. Like there was the war going on. Like that has a huge effect on how the Force is reacting to the galaxy. So not only do you have the war that's clouding everything in the Force, but you also have this long standing specter of darkness that's been around since, Darth Maul showed up in TPM, and probably even starting to creep in before that. So I think it was just there was so many things that were happening at one time, and everything was kind of hazy, and it was harder to pin down this is the guy, he's right here, and that's the situation. I also think that it probably you could add in that Palpatine was probably in some way, shape, or form kind of masking his Force presence. That's something that we really haven't discussed in the moving pictures area of Star Wars before, but it is something that was possible and that had been done in the novels and I think even in the comic series to some degree too.
Well, you are right, because remember Luke did it in TLJ. In the pre-sequels they couldn't find him because he severed his connection.
Yeah, so there's different ways that you could kind of mask your Force presence, whether it be like Luke, where he severed himself from the Force and nobody could see him, but he couldn't see anybody else either. Or if it was just this kind of a shroud over your presence. Right. So that's kind of my thoughts. I'm
gonna take what Nick said and add it to the hubris of the Jedi, as has been explained by both Yoda and Jake Skywalker later on. And we've seen it through Tales of the Jedi, mostly through Dooku's little thread. I mean, he's sitting there going, hey guys, shit's fucked up here. I'm having visions of shit being fucked up. We're going to get fucked up. And Yoda would always be like, hey, visions are bullshit. You're an idiot. Shut up. I'm Yoda. Really, Mace Windu the same way. They're always like, we are the Jedi. We are awesome. We've been kicking ass for. Hey, remember they called us the High Republic. They called us the High Republic. We were wearing gold shits. Remember Yoda? You were wearing gold shits. We are awesome. So there is no way the Sith could ever rise right underneath our nose, let alone sit in our meeting rooms with us and talk to us. So it's like Nick said, you just had this, their vision was blanketed, but because they were so goddamn arrogant, ignorant, and cocky about their order, that they weren't even thinking to pay attention to any warning sign. They weren't even listening to their own membership. All right.
Yeah, true.
And the last one here comes from our buddy Nova. This is if you're a Stern fan, I'll read this and you should understand what he was getting at here. Who did a better job of portraying a younger OT character, Ewan McGregor or Donald Glover? Your thoughts? Right, that's a Bobo mention from the Stern Show, but a good question, Nick. What do you think? Who did better portraying the younger version of their OT character, Ewan or Donald?
I mean, that's a really good question. Oh man, that's a tough one, because here's the thing:
Ewan had a lot more opportunity.
Yeah, like Ewan had triple the opportunity that Donald did.
He got his own series. I will say this, and this is going to be controversial, but I'm going to limit it to the prequels and not to the TV series for Kenobi. I think that Donald nailed it first try. I think that he came out the gates and with very, like, if you look at the amount of time that he was in that movie and what he was given to work with and what he did in probably less than an hour of screen time, he fucking nailed young Lando. And I think that if you just take into account, if you only take into account the prequels, I think that there's a lot of questionable shit in the prequels around all of the characters. And I'm not saying that that's the actor's fault. Yeah,
I'm just saying
not Ewan's fault, but he had to live with what he was given.
It's a material problem. It's a material problem. If we're just going prequels versus Solo, I think that with the limited space that Donald had to work with, he nailed what I thought young Lando was going to be like. T for T. Like he was on it. And like there's some shit in the prequels where it's like Kenobi in AOTC is almost unwatchable. Like I don't
like his mullet in Attack of the Clones?
The haircut's awful. The line reads are like the line reads in AOTC are some of the worst that I've ever seen.
Obi-Wan's pretty
Star Wars,
pretty rough in AOTC. In TPM, he's a little bit of a dickhead, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Like you can tell he hates Anakin. He wants him to die.
Yeah. It's like you see the character journey there, but I just feel like
it's not till Rots that he starts to kind of feel like Kenobi.
Exactly. Like it takes him 2 movies to really be like, oh, this is Kenobi. Like Rots Kenobi is Kenobi. Like is young Kenobi, and that follows over into the TV show as well, because he essentially like Ewan iterates on Rots Kenobi to get to the Kenobi that we see in the series, whereas like TPM and AOTC, it's like I watch AOTC Kenobi, I'm like, dude, I don't even like. Is somebody holding a cue card in front of your face and you're like reading the lines off of it? Like it's bad.
It's your life. You can't lose your lightsaber.
B-Man, thank you for the donation.
Yeah, so B-Man paid up, so he gets a question in late. That's quite all right. If you want to pay for questions, we can sit here all day. Okay, we'll be here till 8:00. But it's a good one actually. B-Man is asking us whose lightsaber is your favorite and least favorite. Shit. I'm gonna shit. This is tough.
I'm gonna give a controversial answer
right
off the top.
If you got it,
Kylo Ren is my favorite lightsaber.
You know what? It crossed my mind as one of the top choices because it is so unique. That cross guard, the chaotic energy that comes out. I'll give you that. Mm-hmm. All right. Damn it. Fuck. I mean, I go off a hilt, blade, sound the blade. Damn it, guys! I might have to say the Darksaber.
Darksaber's a good one
and
too,
I don't like that because I love Luke's greeny And I love Vader's because he took Anakin's and made it Vader. Fuck, but I'll go.
Like if you ask me what the most iconic saber is, completely different answer. You know, like most iconic saber, Skywalker family saber iteration with Vader's as well. I would put those two 1 and 2. Like I would put the blue blade and the red blade as 1 and 2, and then I would put Luke's green one right under it.
I know. Fuck.
But like my favorite. Like that, my favorite blade is Kylo's because of everything you said. Like that blade, when it turned on, the sound, the look, the visceral nature of it. Like that blade is the first blade I was like, that's a dark side lightsaber. Like that, it's not some elegant thing. Yeah. It is a blade that is made of chaos and pain, and that is made to instill chaos and pain upon the galaxy. I was blade
it's a good call.
Is just
and I like the justification of favorite versus iconic, so I don't feel as bad now. But the dark saber, it's got a beautiful flat hilt, and that the color of the blade that comes out, it's almost like an anti color. You know, it's like a null. I just love it. All right, so least, this is easy for me. Mace Windu's. I hate the character. He's a fucking asshole. we see how big of a dickhead he is in the prequels. He's an even bigger dick in Tales of the Jedi. To me, Mace Windu has zero redeeming qualities outside of how he is portrayed in Gennady Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. He has a really cool scene where he takes on a battalion of droids. That's the only time I've been like, oh, Mace Windu's cool. But his blade is pompous as fuck. It's got gold inlays all in it. It's very cylindrical. It doesn't really even have an emitter. It's just it's too clean. It's like a fucking pimp lightsaber. So fuck him and his lightsaber. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm kind of gonna go off of the same like direction that you did and say Sidious's from.
Yeah, it's like they're like dildos, you know? They're like vibrators. They're too smooth.
They're very phallic. They're very like, and they don't like. Here's what I'll say too. It's like it doesn't feel like their personality matches their wielder. Like the thing about like some of these blades is like, especially with like seeing the iteration of the Skywalker family blade to Vader's blade, it's like you see the personality and the wielder change. And like with Kylo's blade, like you see the personality and the wielder of that blade. And with Sidious, it's like, this is a dark, evil motherfucker. And like, yeah, I get that like he is, you know, in this position as chancellor and stuff like that. But like the blade doesn't feel like it matches his personality. There's no darkness in that blade. There's not I don't look, if you showed me that hilt and that blade and you were like, and I didn't know who was associated with it, I would not say that was Palpatine's blade.
It looks like a butt plug.
Yeah, it's just, it's not what I expected when I was like, oh, the Emperor, this evil character is gonna brandish a weapon for the first
Senate.
time, and that's what it looks like.
I am the Senate. Then he makes that crazy guttural sound as he twists, spins, like
yeah.
And you guys tell me Revenge of the Sith is golden. Okay.
Yeah. Clone Wars. So BMAT said Clone Wars Sidious blades were cool. Clone Wars City. There was the scene where he's fighting Asajj, or not Asajj. He's fighting Savage and he's fighting Maul at the same time, and he busts out the two sabers and he's doing a bunch of spin moves. Like they look a little bit better there, but like the blade he whips out
Nick,
in the chambers, like
it's funny because there's really Mace and Sidious's, they have similarities. They got like that.
They're very
polished chrome, some gold inlay there. Mace is just a little bit longer. He likes a foot long, where Sidious is more into things you can jam up your crack. All right, I dig this. So hopefully we'll get more questions the next time we try it. That was kind of fun. All right, well, I think that kind of takes us into the meat of the show. We got a few little newsy things to get into before we have the fun with today's special topic. But some of these we've talked about before, and I'm interested to see what Nick is thinking here. All right, so up first, some Skeleton Wars news, or Skeleton Crew news, coming from reliable leakers out there, Bespin Bulletin and MSW. In fact, Nick, it looks like MSW has been taken off the internet. I don't know if Jason just was tired of paying the bills or keeping a website running, because it does kind of suck to run a website. I'm not gonna lie. But he doesn't really post anymore. He'll post to whatever Reddit will let him in here. But anyways, the first update on Skeleton Crew came from Bespin Bulletin. We're starting to get some character names, and both of these names are for two of the kid cast members, which we know will be the main cast. So up first here, and this will be difficult for those of you that did not watch the leaked Skeleton Crew trailer. We have a synopsis in this post on StarWarsTime.net if you want to check it out. May or may not have lifted it from Bespin Bulletin. That's okay. We like to share here. Gave him credit down there. But please read the synopsis if you're not familiar with what we're about to talk about, because it'll help you visualize a bit. But if you're on the stream, you see our boy Max Rebo up there, and there's a reason for that. In the trailer for Skeleton Crew, and in this, it wasn't released, so you didn't miss anything. This was the celebration trailer that has been leaked a few times, has been recapped, so I've seen it. But there's a point in the trailer where you see a little ortolan, which is the species of Max Rebo, and it's made clear that character is going to be one of the kid characters. Well, we now know this little ortolan's name, Nick. And it's kind of funny. It happens to just be Neil. And
Neil.
Neel, but pronounced Neil. And I kind of dig it that they're given such a common English name to a young alien character, especially one that's going to look like a miniature Max Rebo. I've even heard that this little Neil, Nick, he's going to have like a tiny tuft of hair in his head, kind of like how Cartman has in South Park. So I don't know. We think about Neil, the
Dude,
ortolan.
It's funny too, because like the other ortolan that we know, his name is Max. Like, so apparently ortolans just have very, very standard English names.
You know what? That's
Max
a great point. That's a great point. That's just how they roll over there on ortolan.
Yeah, they're like, you know what, man? It's like, we're not doing all this Gabu, Kalana crap. Like, we're Neil, Max, Sarah,
Bob,
Jim,
John.
Like, that's it.
So yeah, I mean, the name. I'm excited that we're gonna have a main character miniature Max Rebo. Is Neil also musical? Is this something that they're just adept at? Who knows? But I thought that was funny that his name is Neil, and he's gonna have this not just bald head like Max. Apparently, he's got a little tuft of hair up there. It's gonna make him look even more silly, but cool. We all love our ortolans here, or however you pronounce that. So that's neat. Like we talked last week, we're probably not going to see Neil until about this time in 24
next year,
but that's all right. It just means we're gonna have a year to kind of build it up, get some rumors, some leaks, start speculating on what we may see, kind of how we do. The next update comes from Making Star Wars, and this is still for Skeleton Crew, Nick. But he has revealed the name of the main kid character. And the way Jason explained it, this character will be similar to Mickey from the Goonies. All right, so what's his fucking name in real life? Samwise Gamgee.
Oh.
Shit.
Oh, yeah, it's Sean Astin.
So you know how Sean Astin's character, he was kind of like the lead kid in Goonies. That's who this character is going to be. Supposedly played by Ravi Cabo Conyers of Encanto fame. And this character's name is going to be Wim. Whim. So the main kid character will be Wim, and he'll be joined at least by his buddy Neil. The
funny thing is that this kid's real name is more of a Star Wars name than the name that they gave him.
100%. I mean, he's got hyphens. He's got hyphens and everything, so he's already set. But so there you go. We know two of the kid cast members now. At least their in-universe name: Neil, the Ortolan, so a mini Max Rebo, and then the main kid, who will probably the ringleader, maybe the one that gets them all in trouble and lost in the first place. His name will be Wim. But like I said, if you have no idea what we're talking about, how these characters have been viewed in the trailer, there is a synopsis up on StarWarsTime.net. in the post that we are discussing. So we'd love a few clicks. While you're there, why don't you click on some of these Fender ads and Kalahari ads for us as well. All right, Nick, this next one, we did touch on making Star Wars rumor from a few months ago. And Nick has also been saying, like, look, you may have to start releasing some of this TV stuff in theaters. Even it could be the first episode or two, or maybe you just start canning the shit and turning them into movies. Well, it's starting to sound like, now that the strikes have been settled, that what Making Star Wars reported months ago as just a potential backup plan for the strikes to turn Mandalorian Season 4 into a film, it may be a thing now. So this is coming from... Oh, by the way, I want everyone to read this article on our site because I had AI write it and I primed it. I'm like, yo, write it like you're a super fanboy. Try to be funny, use some quotes, and you should read this shit. It might make you throw up, but I love it. I mean, just trusty rebel spy Jeff Snyder dropped some bombshells in his podcast, The Hot Mic. Like, I would never write this shit. Or, hey there, fellow Star Wars enthusiasts, buckle up because the galaxy's far, far away is going through more drama than a soap opera on Coruscant. I was like, our new AI intern is kicking ass and taking names. But anyways, this Jeff Snyder from The Hot Mic, who has gotten some credit over this past year, kind of discussing the Jedi Order or the new Jedi Order movie, shit like that. But they were kind of talking about this, Nick, and last week we were like, oh, the Daisy movie's probably going to be first. Apparently that report was wrong last week. So here's what Jeff had to say about that. He's now saying that the Daisy movie is not going to be first because he's now hearing some more rumblings about what Making Star Wars reported months ago about, hey, if this strike continues or there's at least discussions about turning Mando Season 4 into a movie. Well, now this Jeff character is supporting that. A couple months ago, I shot this one down. And apparently he didn't give credit, and there was a big war. I love all this shit between nerds. It's funny. So a couple months ago, I shot this one down, that there were rumors that Season 4 of The Mandalorian could be turned into a movie. So he's essentially saying, yeah, when Making Star Wars put it out, I was like, fuck that guy. I'll sit on it, and then I'll come out and take credit for it a few months down the road and sound smart. I think at the time, I didn't think that was necessarily the case. So do you see how he's infusing his own opinion versus what he might have been hearing?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
However, that is now what I am starting to hear, that the odds are in the project's favor, whatever Season 4 of The Mandalorian turns out to be, whoever is in it, what it turns out, whatever shape it takes, it is looking like that could be the next Star Wars movie, and that might be the thing that's announced before the end of the year.
Well, if they're going to announce it before the end of the year, they got about 18 days.
I was going to
so
say
get on
that
it.
shit's running out, and Nick, this would potentially be the 2025 slated film that we keep pretending is going to happen. And
I mean, I'm going to tell you this right now. If Season 4 of The Mandalorian is a movie, then it's the full crossover.
Well, it's not. It's not going to be Dave's project. This will be kind of a Band-Aid to account for, I don't know, maybe lack of viewership on Disney Plus, a lack of money. Bob saying, hey, you only get this many dollars. You're, instead of making a 7-hour story, now you're going to make a 2-hour one. So this truly would be what they were aiming to tell in 8 episodes, not Dave's thing yet.
Yeah. So my issue is then, like, how does this affect the timeline? How does this affect the release of everything else?
Well, you're right, because if they're doing this, Nick, do they just poo-poo Ahsoka Season 2? Does that also become a movie, or does that get shoved in the parts of this?
Yeah, and how does Skeleton Crew affect that? Like, how does this, if this doesn't come out till 2025, there's a lot of things that roll down from that.
Well, I mean, we were operating that even if it stayed regular TV, 2025 would be the earliest we'd see The Mandalorian again. So in terms of real life timeline, I think they can hit either or. In terms of fanboy shit, I don't love this at all. I guess there are a lot of pros. I mean, hopefully you get a much more refined story. But listen, people, we've been conditioned to getting at minimum 6 hours of a narrative for these shows. And when you chop that down to maybe 2 hours, you are going to lose out on so much shit that John had planned. Deeper stories, broadening relationships, expanding the universe. You're not going to be able to do all of that now. And I know some of you will be like, well, good. You're just going to get to the good shit. And like I said, there are arguments to be made for that. As a gluttonous Star Wars fan who wants as much as he can process, I do not like where this trend could be headed. And as Nick said, what's it going to do with the rest of the projects? I mean, Dave has made it sound pretty clear. Like, yeah, I've got an Ahsoka season 2. We've got stories to tell before I do the Endgame event. And if they all become movies now, as Nick said, what does that do to timelines? So,
yeah, I mean, does this become a trilogy? Do you build a trilogy off of this and be like, okay, well, what was Mando season 4 is now a movie. Right, what was Ahsoka season 2 is now a movie. And then and then the crossover.
I guess I could palate that a bit more, Nick, because it would be a concrete plan versus what seems like knee-jerk reactions these days. But it is still, and you'd be like, oh fuck, I'll take Ahsoka season 2 movie because it's less tic-tac-toe Thrawn, where people like me were like, well, we could have got a little deeper with Ezra and maybe Luke, or with Ezra in the New Republic, and that type of shit is just going to get cut now because it's the movies will only be the true main narrative. For example, if Mandalorian season 3 was a movie, it would essentially just be Bo-Katan and Din linking up. And then taking Mandalore, it's over. Like, that's it. You wouldn't have got anything else. None of that character development for Bo would have felt earned. She would have went from being grumpy sitting on her throne to an hour later somehow has convinced all Mandalorians to band together and retake the planet. It might have been exciting, but you would have lost on all of that world and character building that season 3 gave us.
Yeah, I mean, what I think may be happening here is, like, one, obviously, like you said, cost-cutting measures. It's questionable at this point whether it costs more to film a series of, like, a TV series or a movie.
I know. Or, dude, you don't even get the return at movies these days, so I don't know like what they're thinking here. So,
I mean, here's what I think is happening here. They're looking at the cost breakdown, and we're like, okay, well, if it's, we're filming 8 to 10 episodes for a series that costs you $10 million per episode. It's $100 million to film a show. That's what I'm assuming. I don't know if it costs $10 million. If it's a movie, you film your, $10 million. That's what it, or $100 million. That's what it costs to make the show. Your marketing cost is far lower because you really don't have to do as much marketing for a TV series as you do for a movie, a big screen movie release. Your return unquestionably lower. Like if you release Mandalorian season 4, basically what's going to happen, you'll see a small uptick in your subs for the time period that runs, and then it's going to go back down, and that's what it is. Like, you're going to have a lower return. Movie-wise, faster production, more budget to film it. More marketing budget, unquestionably higher return, more than likely. If you can keep your movie production costs to $100 million, which they've struggled to do for years now, and you can have a comparable production cost for both of them and only have your increase in your marketing, then you're probably going to make more money off of a movie than you are going to make off of a TV series. That's just kind of how it breaks down.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think revenue is much more clear cut at the box office versus a streamer. You can see ticket sales for this movie equal this, where, if it's a streamer, how do you really know? How many people actually sign? It's not like when you sign up for Disney Plus, you go, I'm signing up for this show, click. No, you sign up for a platform, you get what you get. So I agree with you there. The dollars and cents are much more clear in terms of did we win or did we lose?
And then what they may also be testing is, like, They haven't been in theaters
Right.
since
Is there an
2019.
appetite?
So yeah, like what's there? Like, and what better way to test it than like your
The
biggest
flagship.
current? Yeah, you know, like do it with the Mandalorian. That's your biggest current fandom right now in terms of like active franchises. You put that out in theaters, you see what the response is, and then you adjust. Then you can say like, okay, expectation wise, this is our bar. Like if it makes $500 million worldwide, you'd be like, okay, then you adjust your costs for your. Then you can adjust your costs for your like movies to come down the line, and you can set your production budgets for the Rey return movie. You can set your production budgets for the other movies to come based off of what performance looks like for your Mandoverse big screen debut. I mean that's what I would think there, and I think that the reason that they may be doing this is that they've kind of come to a conclusion about what streaming is and what you can expect your profitability margins to be like for streaming. Because like you said, it's basically what you're looking at for the release of a streaming show is how many subs reactivated, how many gross new subs you got, and what your watch time is on your current subs.
Like
that's the three.
How do you compute dollars and cents out of that? So
it's like
it's a bummer. I mean, it really is. And I when we first heard this rumor, I didn't want to think it could be true, but the writing's on the wall. I mean, there's changes at Disney. It's been happening ever since they brought Iger's ass back. He just doesn't want to play and spend the way Chapek was doing.
I mean, and Chapek was the worst thing to happen to Disney in 30 years.
He tried to kill their bread and butter at the parks, and I kind of liked what he was doing with Disney Plus. It was like here's a bunch of millions, just make some Star Wars shit for me. But it is like I said. I mean, John, he had it written. It was going to be 8 episodes. We typically, like I said, probably get around 6 to 7 hours of pure narrative, and if it becomes a film, that gets cannibalized big time. You got to wonder what's going to get cut. What are we going to miss out? Bat's asking, do you think Pedro not being involved has it? No, I don't, because I'm pretty sure from day one he always knew, like, I'm going to be doing other shit. We can just dub my voice in. I'm going to take the helmet off season 1 so I actually get paid as a real actor in the credits and not just voice work.
Pedro is the least, like, as funny as this sounds, Pedro's the least important part of the Mandalorian. He does nothing.
He's, like, at this point, just voicing.
Yeah, like Pedro's not in the suit. Pedro's not fighting. You don't see his face. You don't see any, like, you could replace him easier than anybody else on this.
They did it. In season 3, he literally, I don't think, wore the suit once.
Yeah, like the motherfucker sits in an ADR booth and just like records his voice lines at his own house and then emails them to Disney. Yeah. Like
it's all money. It's money. I mean, these aren't the creatives making these choices. It's not like John went to Bob and said, "Hey, Bob, you know what? I poured my heart and soul into this script for season 4, and I feel lazy all of a sudden. I don't want to shoot it all now. Let's just make a movie."
Like, I don't even know if it's all money related too, because here's what they're also looking at. They're looking at eyes on property. And if they're seeing eyes on property go down consecutively, then they're like, well, what do we do? Do we just release it again knowing it's going to get viewed less than the last one? Like, we need a shakeup here. Like, we got to do something.
You could look at it as a dice roll, like Nick is saying. Like, hey, season 3... still doing better than the other shows, but a lot of bitching, a lot of people tuning out, not nearly watches season 1 and 2. Let's dangle the carrot of a return to theaters and see if that juices the audience again. So, it's just, I don't know, it's a bummer. It's, when you think about it, one point in time, we were dreaming about 8 seasons of Mandalorian, multiple seasons of Ahsoka, multiple seasons of Book of Boba, and just like when Disney took over the movies and they had a 10-year plan, Nick, it looks like that has already come crashing down for the streaming service.
I mean, it's like for like, you can say you have a 10-year plan for anything. No, you don't. You have you have a plan for the movies that you're going to release, and then your plan is going to adjust based off of the performance of that. And that's how everything goes. Like, you can't have a 10-year plan because your 10-year plan is going to change based off of how audiences respond to your content and what your performance looks like.
George had one with the prequels, and he stuck to it.
Yeah, and I mean,
remember that those fuckers took 3 years. I mean, I think they started shooting in 96, and last one came out in 2005.
In 05, yeah. So like, it's a little easier for that because it's like, I'm gonna make these things like for George. It was like, I'm putting these 3 movies out, and I don't give a fuck.
George,
like,
so.
Do you think that like George Lucas read anything about TPM and made changes for AOTC? No, because AOTC would have been 10 times better than it was.
George
if he
did what George wanted to do.
If I'm being honest, if I worked at Disney right now, I'd be saying the same thing. I'd be saying we need to get back in theaters, because like, if I'm looking at revenue projections for Disney Plus and I'm seeing that eyes on our property are consistently going down for every new season release, and that the buzz is decreasing for every seasonal release, like, what am I gonna like? I'm sitting there and I'm working in Disney's marketing department and I'm working in Disney's production department, and what am I supposed to do? Just be like, just release it like we did the last ones and watch the numbers go down.
No, you're right. It's just, we always have to remind people that the rest of the world isn't like us. Okay? We're not here poo-pooing on Star Wars and trying to make you feel bad. We're just reminding you that most people could give 2 shits about Star Wars, and Disney is starting to figure that out, and they're trying to course correct based on the casuals versus the hardcores. Yeah,
because I mean, hardcore fans, I mean, they're just, you don't make money off of hardcore fans. Like, you establish a base of hardcore fans, and then you're like, I got these guys no matter what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw my $15 go to Disney today. I was like, oh, I guess my year's up or something, because there it goes. And I've been paying them since 2019, and I can't say I use Disney Plus a ton. I just watched the Santa Clauses, got through that. Did check out the Lego Holiday Special again last night with the little kid. That is some great shit, by the way. If you haven't watched that in a few years, I think it came out in 2019. It is very good. It's when Rey travels through the eras. It's good shit. And
like, yeah, I mean, it makes the most sense, you know?
It's like, a lot easier to buy a movie ticket than sign up for a streaming service, right? So a casual could be out like, oh, fuck, there's a Star Wars movie in theaters? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, can you imagine like somebody who only watched season 1 of The Mandalorian, like one of those people who fell off the wagon, and it wasn't because of, you know, like, oh, I hated it. It was just because like, yeah, I watched it. It was good. And like, I'm a casual Star Wars fan. I'm not going to keep up with it. They go to a theater, they see on the marquee The Mandalorian movie. They're like, oh shit, there's a movie of it now. Like it draws interest.
Well, like you said, it could convince that customer to maybe go back and resub to catch up, so they're ready for the movie.
But yeah, I mean, like, the thing is like, you can't make your content for people like us. You can't. You can make some content for people like us and have it be a part of your content strategy.
No, you're right.
But you can't tailor all your
content. Can't is correct, because you know as well as I do, even people like us have to constantly bitch about what they're given. So it really, you know, the creatives at Disney, they're fucked either way. Right? They got to work within the confines of a profitable business, and they got to work in one of the most contentious, shittiest fandoms in all of pop culture. So, and like, I think that what's interesting about where Star Wars is right now is that like, it's being run by hardcore fans. Like, you can say whatever you want about Kathleen Kennedy. She's a hardcore fan of Star Wars and Lucasfilm. She has been her whole life. That's why she worked there when George was there. That's why she came up in that company under George. Like, you could say whatever you want about like her decision-making process or whatever, but like, she's a hardcore Lucasfilm Star Wars fan. And George handpicked her to continue. Yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing. I saw a meme going around. I think it was about Star Wars Theory. He he does something to his face, makes himself basically look like he's a special person, saying, "Oh, Disney Star Wars," ooh. And then he makes himself look normal. He goes, "Dave Filoni star." And it's like, dude, you understand
same.
Dave Filoni is Disney Star Wars and has always been Disney Star Wars, right?
Exactly. The motherfucker's been there, but that's another problem though. Like Dave is a fantastic creative person. He cannot run your content strategy. He can't do it because he makes shows like Ahsoka that we care about. And he only understands things from a perspective of a hardcore Star Wars fan that was a Lucas disciple, that was handpicked by George, and that is going to tell stories that are deep cut Star Wars shit for people like us. And there needs to be a Feige, and there is not one. Kevin Feige came in as a movie executive and was able to understand how to take a property, Marvel, that was marketed to the nerdiest of nerds and make it the most popular franchise in movie history.
Is he dead, by the way?
And Kevin Feige? I don't know.
Or did he just make so much money, he's like, you know what? Fuck this MCU shit. I'm done. Because I mean, really, MC phase 4, 5, and what are we in 6 yet? Who the fuck knows? That's my point. It's a disaster. It is Star Wars now.
Yeah, like post phase 4, like post Endgame, it's been dog shit.
Oh well, you are right though.
They need a course.
I think that's what they're doing. 13 years after the fact, they're trying to turn Dave into that, in addition to all the other roles they're giving him. So it's not technically his main job.
Yeah, and I just don't think that if you're trying to make Dave your Kevin Feige, that's the wrong move, because you need somebody who understands the connection point between the super geeky Star Wars shit that Dave writes with Ahsoka and the World Between Worlds and Rebels and all the cartoon shit that's just so deep cut nerdy crap that we all really like. But if you put that in front of the general viewer, they're going to be like, what the fuck is this? You need a connection point between those two parts of it. And I don't think that they have that yet. They don't have an understanding of how do we take this really what can be heady Star Wars content and make it digestible for everybody in a way that we're going to see people that haven't engaged with the property before come to it. How do we do that? And I don't think that they have that person in the room yet.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to stay the psycho fanboy that I am. I love it. All right. I think it's time for Star Wars. No, it's always time for Star Wars time. It's time to move into this week's special topic. This is a fun one here. As I said earlier, if you're just tuning in, were asked last week to recount some of our top scenes from all of Star Wars. So, of course, we took that to heart. We listened to our fans like idiots, and we started to chart this out. And as I started to write down top scenes, and I'm going, I'm possibly going overboard here, although in my head these sound like good scenes. So it ended up turning into, it's going to be a multi-part special topic. So part 1 today, episode 289, we're going to go through the top scenes of the prequels, Kenobi, and Solo. I know they're technically in different eras, but they felt like they fit together. So we're going to go through, there's 23 of them. And at the end, you will see my top 5 out of these 23, as well as young Nick's. And I was the one that came up with the 23, so I'm sure Nick is sharpening, or not sharpening, he's gassing up his flamethrower, getting ready to tear them apart. All right, so we're going to do this up until fan segment. Hopefully everyone is tuned in, ready to roll. Here we go. SWTS's top prequel scenes. There's really no ranking at this point in time, so don't get upset, prequel bros and gals. I know you all are very protective of your trilogy. It's okay. We're just going in chronological order for now. You'll get the rank at the end. So, Nick, to kick things off, clearly we got to start with The Phantom Menace, the best prequel movie. Sir Dork will validate that opinion, but it really is if you honestly think about it. But, Nick, I am starting with Jedi Negotiations. The reason this scene stands out to me, because it's really the first time you see traditional Jedi in their tunics, a Padawan and Master setup. We never saw any of this shit before. And the dynamic between Qui-Gon and Obi, the action, the Jedi abilities we got to see. It's just a moment from that film that I'm always going to remember. Therefore, it is a top scene for myself. Jedi negotiations.
Yeah, it's a good scene to like establish. I think what it did a really good job of in one short scene is like establishing the difference between what you saw in the OT and what you're see, like what, what you will see in the prequels.
Like these are Jedi. Like, Luke was fake Jedi. These are Jedi.
Yeah. So like, and then understanding like, oh, droidicas, like these are a problem. Like, and then you see a Force ability that's never ever used again.
Exactly. That is my favorite. The Jedi speed.
Yeah. It's like, oh, run away. Like, you know how useful that would have been for every Jedi during Order 66?
Yeah. Someone
like any one of them, like any one of them, just be like, oh yeah, I forgot I can run real fast, and they
George
can't.
was doing it too. People were getting pissy about force healing and clone force beings. Look, George was doing it too. He just makes shit up. Why not?
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, they can run real fast and they can jump real high too.
Yeah,
but they can only do it when nobody is threatening them or something. I have no idea what the logic behind it is. No, it really was. It's like,
okay, we just took out all the droidicas. Now more are coming. Let's feats don't fail me now. They out of here.
It's like, okay.
Anyway, like it stands out to me. Lightsabers, Jedi, Roger, even as goofy as it is, it's something that rolls. All right. Up next with Phantom Menace. How can you not talk about the Boonta Eve pod race? Now, if you really want a specific scene from this moment, Nick, it's got to be the end where the music ramps up. It looks like little Anakin could possibly lose because that dickhead Sebulba sabotaged his pod. But because we know he's a Skywalker, he gets the shit done, reconnects his engine, overtakes him at the end, sending Sebulba careening into the desert sand, yelling "Poodoo." So the Boonta Eve, but if we're going just strictly scenes, it's Anakin's win on that last lap.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. The Boonta Eve is definitely in my top scenes from the prequels, and it does it was something again that we've never seen before, and like it gave us a deeper understanding of like Tatooine, and we looked at Tatooine in A New Hope and we're like, what? It's a bunch of people standing around in the desert farming moisture.
Yeah, I mean, Han said so himself. He's like, who the fuck would ever want to live here? And Luke's like, well, I kind of did.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I lived here my whole life. But it like gives you a different perspective on this whole planet, and like, oh, there's things like this, there's entertainment. This is why the Hutts are involved on Tatooine, like shit like this, gambling and all the things that come from it. So yeah, I definitely like even Boonta Eve.
Kind of getting deeper into just the production of the scene, I think it contains some of the greatest Star Wars sounds Ben Burtt ever created. Every pod had a unique voice, if you will. Like every engine was very specific. I hear Sebulba's pod right now. I can hear Anakin's pod, Ben Quadranero's. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Even Nick, it's stuck in his head. The two announcers, Jabba spitting the frog, to start on the gong. It really is a classic Star Wars scene, whether you love TPM or not. So Nick and I definitely saw eye to eye here.
It's a very textural scene, for lack of a better. It's like there's so.
Sorry.
Yeah, like you were saying, like all the sounds, all of the like just the way that things look.
It's all practical.
Like the design of the pod.
All the pods are practical. The engines are real. You actually had skeleton C-3PO being walked out there as a puppet. To me, it embodies George Lucas Star Wars. So yeah, Boonta Eve,
really good.
100%. In a top moment. All right, any more? We got another Phantom Menace top moment. And Nick, if you're looking at this graphic going, this motherfucker's cheating, you are correct. But I am going to try to lump these together. If you do want me to pick the scene, I would say Darth Maul's arrival on Tatooine. All right, seeing a ship coming in. You're getting that silhouette. It kind of looks like a TIE fighter from behind. You got that ya-cha-cha, Yasapa, like the chanting going on. He comes out as dark. He unleashes the spy droids. They're making their little sounds. It was just very awesome. So much so that we all, when we watched Ahsoka and saw Shin Hati essentially recreating it, we're all like, that's awesome because that's a nod to that Maul scene. So to me, Nick, it would be Maul's arrival on Tatooine, although that could extend to his first duel with Qui-Gon. So you could pick either or.
Yeah, I think that really, like, just seeing this character on the screen for the first time was such a big moment. You know,
he was just a hologram the first time we saw him with Sidious, right? This is the first time we physically see him.
Yeah, he's like Darth Maul, and he like walks in and with his arms crossed and all that shit when they're talking to the Nemoidians first. Yeah, but like his first like physical appearance that you see, like the tattoos, you see the Zabrak, you know, like the first time you see Zabrak on screen, the first time that you see a Sith apprentice on scene, really, I mean, like you can say that, I mean, like Vader was, you know, an apprentice too, but like it was just such a different feeling when you saw Maul. Like it was like, oh wow, this is like such a different character archetype than we've seen before. So it was pretty impactful.
I mean, when he almost lops Anakin's head off to start, right? He's coming on his scooter, and then you just see the how much anger he has in him as he starts striking Qui-Gon. And up until this point, we're like, hey, Qui-Gon's a fucking master. He's the dude. Maul shows up, and within 2 seconds, he has Qui-Gon winded, getting ready to get the hell out of there. So that's why I included both images. To me, it's kind of a comprehensive scene. But if we were picking specific scenes, I think his arrival is a bit more memorable than the quick little duel he has with Qui-Gon. Yeah. All right. I think I got another TPM here, and this is one...
You better have at least one
and this is one I know Nick had, but of course, Duel of the Fates. And like, Nick, this one I'll be interested in what you say, but yes, the duel itself is awesome. If we're picking specific scenes, I think there are two that stand out from the Duel of Fates, and I'll see which one you gravitate towards. But Duel of Fates, obviously, great moment. The scenes that stand out to me from this that we could potentially discuss would be literally the door opening and the music starting, right? Dropping the robe, just being a pimp, lighting the dual blade, all the other Naboo soldiers going, okay, yeah, we're good. Qui-Gon's like, hey, we'll handle this. That is a Star Wars moment no one will ever forget. I think the other scene from this is the climax. So the death of Qui-Gon, the rage of Obi-Wan, and then the ultimate pretend defeat of Maul. So while we have identified Duel of Fates as a top scene, do you gravitate to a specific section of it?
Oh yeah, it's the Obi part of it.
Right,
like
okay.
it's the Obi versus Maul. I mean, it's like you said, like the initial kind of, you know, door open, hood back, ignite the dual saber is such an iconic moment from like that will be captured in like cinema history. But the straight up Obi versus Maul is one of the best, like that's one of the best lightsaber fights in the entire saga.
Possibly the best. And I know that's going to piss a lot of people off, but Nick is right. It's going through my head right now. And when Obi went, you can tell it's the first time he's fighting with a little bit of dark side. And when it's the move where he's like tap 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 tap. I mean, they're just like wow 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 wow, like the speed that they're going, deflecting each other, and you're like, holy shit, Obi-Wan, you got a little, a little vinegar in your piss, or piss in your vinegar, however you say that, but. Yeah, I'm with you. It would be the death and what it does to Obi-Wan and how he processes it.
Yeah, and I think that like when it comes down to the fights, like it's an amazing scene from start to finish. Like it's an amazing battle from start to finish. The stuff where they're like walking through the reactor, it feels very choreographed. Like you can watch that and be like, yeah, like they're clearly this choreographed fight scene for a movie. It looks cool. But like that, the moment where it's Maul versus Obi feels so visceral, like you were saying. Like there's a sequence in there where it's like, oh shit, like this doesn't feel like it felt when it was the three of them.
Flip, tap, tap, tap,
it
tap,
was
tap,
like,
flip.
the thing to me that did it was like Maul goes for like a back front strike, and Obi blocks both of them and then parries up and then like kicks him in the face to push him back. I'm like, and that all happened in like a second.
Yeah.
It was very, very fast. And I was like, this is what makes this part of the fight better than the rest of it. It's like, it feels like it doesn't feel as choreographed as the rest of it. And it feels more visceral. It feels more like there's stakes to this fight, where it's like the beginning of it felt like, oh yeah, they're fighting and it's like a cool little dance they're doing and stuff like that. But this feels like there's something behind it.
Yeah, I'm with you. When I put this on my list, the specific moment is Obi's rage, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so clearly that's going to take us out of TPM. I considered putting the parade in there because it just felt very Star Wars-y, throne room callback, the parallels between the first movies of the trilogy, but I opted not to. So moving into AOTC, and I'm pretty sure I'll be the only one talking here. So this will be interesting to see Nick's reactions. I'm going to try my best to convince him that these are worthy of the list. And I'm starting with the Obi-Wan Jango Fett Camino duel. Reasons being, it's actually a pretty well done duel, but it's really the first time we get to see a Mandalorian combat a Jedi and pretty much hold his own. I dig the fight. I dig the behind the scenes and remembering Tamara, singing in the rain with his umbrella. So there's some of that baked into there. But I do find this to be a good duel between a Jedi and a non-Force user.
I guess like I'm truly not gonna have anything to contribute positively to AOTC. Okay. I just think that like the fight scene itself is just so messy and all over the place, and it's just like there's no structure to it. Shit's just flying everywhere. People start sliding off and crap, and like to me, it was just like, if you're gonna have a showdown between these two characters, just, like, it didn't feel meaningful. Like, it felt like it was just such a blip on this movie's radar, and then there was nothing that came from it. Like, the next scene that you have on here too, like, I know that there's like a bunch of cool sounds in it, but that's about it for me. But yeah, I watched this and I'm like, dude, like, he uses the Force to open a door, and then he doesn't use the Force at all against the one person that he's going to fight in the rest of this movie series that has no Force abilities.
Nick, his Beskar armor was blocking the Force.
The Force, yeah, it's blocking the Force. So it was like, to me, when I saw this, I was just like, oh, this is just
all right. Fair enough. I dig it. I guess I would think a fight between a Force user and non-Force user would look a little more chaotic. But yeah, the Force on the elevator and nothing else.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so you can open the door with it, but the guy who's shooting missiles at you from his wrist, you can't use the Force there? Okay.
You got me. But I mean, honestly, we can make that argument about how George has created Jedi Mandos then, because why was there ever even a war when one side had the Force and the other didn't?
Exactly.
Okay, so we can't get too upset because the creator made it stupid to begin with. And Nick teased the other one, but the old seismic charge here, 100%. And it is for the sound. It's kind of neat looking dogfight through the asteroid field there, but it's purely for the sound. Yeah, every Star Wars fan responds to it just like Pavlov's dog. So, yeah, there it is.
But like, what kills that scene is the kid talking the whole time.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Like,
yeah,
it's just
he's like, yeah.
It's like, oh my God. And like, look, he's a kid actor. Like, it is what it is. George is an awful director when giving direction to actors. But like, God, that fucks up that scene. So if that scene was quiet and was only the sounds of the blasters and the explosions, totally. But he fucks that scene up so bad.
I can't argue with the man. So I do think it's a top scene. But again, he has very valid points on it. If you can't tell, Nick despises AOTC.
This movie is trash.
It's become one of my favorite things to watch one time a year, because it's like B-movie Star Wars, but I think I like it for that. It is. All right. Yeah. Next one here, I'm sure Nick still hates it. you've heard me talk about a million times when I justify my rage against Anakin and Rots, but Anakin's Tusken hate, the breakdown to Padme, that's the best acting, the best acted and scripted scene in the entire prequels. All right, so it gets an honorable mention at minimum. You actually see the dialogue's not too bad. I actually feel Anakin's hate and anger and disgust in himself. So it's, to me, in live action Star Wars, the prequels, it's the only time I was like, oh yeah, this guy could become Darth Vader. So yes, it's a top scene from the prequels.
I guess what it comes down to me for AOTC is if it's like any scene where people are talking, it's just terrible. And like really what the moment, if there was going to be one moment in AOTC, it's the moment where he's not talking and he's actually in the camp for 15 seconds and you see him like cutting people down. Like that whole like ride out to the camp, kill everybody, ride back to the camp with my mom's body. Like that is the scene. That's what it would be for me. This, the line reads are awful. The writing is awful. Like, I get that it's like, I'm dark, but he's like, I'm dark and I'm crying and I'm so sad about it. And it's like, oh my God, dude, just like get a nutsack. And like I just, it's so like me watching that scene it's so painful because it's like you become one of the most feared characters in a galaxy and you're in a hovel on Tatooine crying because your mom it's just like it's such a bitchy scene and like I can't stand it. Like if they could have done so many things to portray a dark turn for a character and they choose to have him crying and throwing things in a garage. That was the choice. And like, it's just, and that was the choice for that whole film. Like that whole film was essentially those choices made. like literally crying in a garage. I'm going to take this, whatever it is, and I'm going to throw it across the room. And then I'm going to yell while crying. And it's like, oh, that was a choice that you made.
Well, hey, you know, they are the prequels, but I'm the one that told that I'm just an old idiot that yells at clouds. So I'm glad you're getting some tape out there finally of
it's so
of
bad
blowing this stuff up. There's someone at my front door going nuts. No one else is home.
Oh wow.
I'm trying to get my neighbor to look into it here. Yeah.
If you need to go,
I don't know who they are.
I
I don't care. So see ya. They're leaving. Hold on. I'll move it into the next scene while I text this out to the boss there. So Nick, this would be the Geonosian Arena battle. Go ahead and say why it's stupid, and then I'll come and tell you why I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, this one, if there was a scene that I was considering to add from AOTC, it was probably going to be the scene in Geonosis because there is some cool stuff that happens there. I think the fights between, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme, and then the animals isn't terrible. Like you get some wonky CG, but that's just this whole movie is just wonky CG. The thing that really fucks this scene up for me is when they do the individual close-ups of the Jedi once the Jedi kind of descend on the arena. Like those snippets just looked so bad. But everything else is like it's fine. Like they're defending themselves from an onslaught of troopers, and like everybody's spinning their lightsaber, and it's a very dynamic, like pretty light scene. And the moment where Mace runs in and chops off Jango Fett's head is pretty well executed. And I think that for Mace's lightsaber style, the way that he did it, just kind of like running headlong at him and then deflecting the bolts worked out pretty well. So if there is one scene in this movie, the Geonosian Arena scene would be the one that I would pick as a top moment.
Yeah, you hit most of why I put it here. It's the visual spectacle. It's the idea of all these Jedi in one place we've never seen before. Another moment that stands out, I'm with you on, the execution of Jango, but really when Yoda kind of circles and brings the clones, that's a standout moment. But like you said, it's mostly just a visual spectacle of random people against blue screens waving around flashy swords. So
yeah, it's like, I feel like they could have left that out. Like he didn't need to add in those he didn't need to add in those scenes, those close-ups. Like it didn't seem to add anything to it. But like, I guess he wanted to give everybody their screen time and like, look, everybody's fighting individually. Like that's fine. But like, you could tell that it wasn't filmed at the same time. Yeah. You could tell, like you said,
it's literally like, hey, focus on these two random assholes, and they'll go like, wow, they'll make one move. It's like you guys look like you're practicing in your basement in front of a green screen.
Like when Mace shows up and like he walks up to Dooku and then he jumps off of the platform and stuff. Like I thought that was a pretty cool little intro there. Like okay, like. He's walking right up to him. Like, why didn't he chop his head off in that moment? I have no idea. But you know what? He was like making a statement, and then the battle kind of kicks off from there. So it's definitely one of the best scenes from that movie for sure.
Look at that! I was expecting you to light that one on fire. I'm with who down here said Padme's midriff. Yeah, that's definitely a top moment. Good one there. Bat. You're a dirty old man like myself. I like it. All right. Hey, you might think we're moving on. We're not. We're sticking with Attack of the Clones. As silly as it is, you can't tell me it didn't stand out the first time you saw it, but Yoda's first battle with Dooku. I mean, the movie was hyped around this. Remember, we were talking to Gallard. He's like, yeah, this wasn't supposed to happen, by the way. This literally happened day of shoot, day of scene. George's like, oh yeah, fuck it, we'll have the puppet. We'll have the Yoda fight. But hey, visually, it's a spectacle. It while it looks ridiculous because he's essentially a geriatric that's almost dead and can hardly walk. But that's the beauty of the Force, I guess. When you need to tap into it, it can make you do amazing things. But I did have to put as a top scene Yoda's first duel with the Dukester.
I mean, like cinematically too. Like this was a pretty big moment, right? Yeah. Like in terms of like the history of cinema. I mean, I think this is one of the first times ever that you have like this dynamic of a scene between a fully CG character and somebody who is like an actual human, like standing on a.
There you go, set. Nick. That's why I picked it. It's so movie history making.
I mean, yeah, it's like that may not be like fully true, but it's one of the first scenes where it's like, okay, like there's a lot of dynamic action happening between a real actor and a fully CG character. I mean, like obviously you can go back and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and like you could bring that up, or like Last Action Hero, shit like that. But I think that this is a different level. Did anyone else than those two films?
Now you put that thought into my head. Did anyone else used to potentially pleasure themselves to Jessica Rabbit as a kid?
I mean, I think that of a person of a certain age, I think we may have all been there.
I think so. Right. I don't feel so weird. Thank you, friends.
But like when I was a kid, like when I first saw this, like me and my friends came out of the theater. We were like, "Oh my
dude,
god!"
I got interviewed by the local news. I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "What's your favorite?" Yoda's lightsaber, bro. Did you see him flipping around, dude?
It was nuts. So like, yeah, like this was like like watching it now with the advancements of CGI and like understanding like how this scene was made. It's definitely a little different than your first initial reaction when you see it in the theaters and stuff. But in the theaters, I was like, "Oh shit, Yoda's crazy!
Oh yeah,
he's nuts! Look at him!"
So yeah. Hey, I think it validates. This one may trip you up, but we actually just talked about this as we were discussing this man and how he's essentially everything for the galaxy. He's more important than the Jedi, the rebels themselves, as he is one of their people that kind of brought that movement to fruition. But I don't know why. I don't know if it's the music, because it's like the dun dun. You start to get those motifs coming in. You see all the clones flying out. But I really do appreciate the moment right there at the end, as Bail is up there with the Chancellor and some of the other senators, seeing the war machine that he did not want to be creative take off, and him just kind of look down and punch the ledge in defeat. Like, fuck, I know where this is going to take us. And Nick, you could argue that might be the best acting in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, just that one little.
I mean, Jimmy kills it. Like, no dialogue needed. Just his physical emotes were spot on. But I don't know. I like the moment because it's the true beginning of the Clone Wars, something that we were teased from Old Man Obi-Wan way back in A New Hope.
Yeah. I mean, it's the beginning of the end. Like, it's the beginning of the end of the galaxy as we know it up to this point.
And Bail knows it, and no one else does.
Yeah, so it is definitely like a pivotal moment in terms of like the history of the galaxy in Star Wars. Like, when the clone army is brought full force into the picture is a moment that like changes the trajectory of the Star Wars galaxy and its history forever, you know? And just in terms of like historical moments in Star Wars, this is definitely one that you would mark down for sure.
The scene that precedes this, right? It's Yoda finally admitting that, oh yeah, we fucked up. Like Nick said, our vision's way more clouded than we thought. And then, begun the Clone Wars have. And then you get Bail here going, oh fuck. All right, guess what?
Yeah,
it's time to move into everyone's darling of the prequels, except for mine. But it's Rot's time. All right, it's kick things off. This is a no-brainer. One of the best openings in Star Wars has to go to Revenge of the Sith. The drums, I mean, it's so iconic. The sounds of the Jedi Starfighters, Anakin's ETA-2 coming in, the back and forth between friends now. You got to remember, they're no longer master apprentice. Anakin is a fully fledged Jedi Knight. Obi's a master. It's great. And it's awesome until they land on Grievous's ship, and then it just turns into Revenge of the Sith, kind of a slapdicky movie that should have been very serious and dark.
We're Jedi.
Oh,
we're no better
goodness.
than this.
But Nick, it's
like
the
that.
best Star Wars movie ever made. It's golden, according to some listeners, some Beyond the Dune seers. I mean, I'm the idiot. I'm the idiot.
Like, and like, here's the thing, and this is how I treat the prequels and the sequels, because you have to treat them that way. You can't take them whole cloth as the movies themselves, and then as a 3-movie arc.
Pick and choose.
It's the pieces of it. Exactly. It's like, man, Duel of Fates was awesome. You know what wasn't awesome? Walking through the Tatooine market and talking about angels for 20 minutes. That sucked. Like, you know what was really cool? This scene in Rots. You know what wasn't really cool in Rots? Like, fucking hanging out on Naboo for a while. Like that wasn't great. But this did make my top 5 for the prequel solo moments. This was top 5. Spoiler alert. But what really did it for this scene in particular is that you can see a clear increase in visual fidelity in the CG from what we last saw in AOTC to the very opening moments of this movie. You're like, oh, like we've stepped up. Like, you know, like what we saw in TPM and AOTC is one thing, and then what we're seeing now in ROTS is a different thing. It's a different level.
That's a good point. It's like I said, I just wish this scene ended when they land. It picked up again when they fought Dooku, and then they just crash on Coruscant. We didn't need a lot of jerking off with droids and elevators and that type of shit.
Like, are you sure you didn't like the R2D2 oil spill set them on fire?
Or when he comes like out of frame and bounces off the wall after "We're Jedi, we're smarter than this" line. One of the best written lines in all Star Wars.
It's
I still feel like it's been removed from at least the digital version on Disney Plus.
It made like I remember you saying that when you were like I watched it again and it was gone and like I vividly remember that.
So,
like
so does everyone else. Yeah,
down.
everyone else. And I honestly think that they too eventually realize like, hey, if we're gonna add in shit like McClunky and tweak stuff,
we can take out some other dumb
let's
shit.
remove one of the corniest fucking lines ever delivered by Ewan McGregor in his entire career. Let's just get it gone. And maybe Ewan paid to have that shit edited because it's so terrible. I mean, he's like, how could this happen? Well, Jedi, we're smarter than this.
It's almost like they filmed that line from AOTC and just put it in ROTS because really after that line, Ewan's on fire.
Gets a lot better.
Ewan, like that's the one thing that I will say for this, like to defend this movie is like Ewan bats $9.99 and only $9.99 because of this one line we're talking about. Like he kills it the rest of this movie. Like he really there's another one in there that I really think is fucking terrible, but like we may get to it later.
Maybe I picked it as a top scene.
But like there's another line read where it's like every time I hear it, I'm like, oh God, why? But like that line, the we're Jedi, we're smarter than is so bad. But like you're right. What should have happened in this scene is like we have everything that we have in the ships. We land in the hangar, and then we just see a scene of them running into the throne room, or running into the where Palpatine
fight
is.
Dooku, get trapped by Grievous. Okay, he flies out the window. Just show you crash landing. Enough's enough.
Cut out all this middle bullshit.
Bro, this scene we're talking about, I believe, is 55 minutes long.
Jesus,
fuck.
Really?
The rescue of Palpatine is at least 45, if not closer to 55. I promise you.
That's why
I'm trying to tell people. Like the movie is a rescue, and there's Darth Vader. That's the flow of ROTS. Whether you all want to believe it or not, that's how it works. It's like
because I've always said with this movie, as soon as Obi gets on Utapau, everything flows very fast from there. Like the sequence of events that happens after Obi hits Utapau, like it moves very quick, and it's probably because they take 45 minutes of the movie in the opening sequence.
I promise everyone, go look. I guarantee you from the time the ships come in, which Nick and I love. I know it sounds like this isn't a top scene. It is, at least until they crash land on Grievous's ship. I believe it's at least 45 minutes from that to crashing and seeing, Padme and all that.
Yeah. Another happy landing.
All right, here we go. Sticking with ROTS, obviously. I put Anakin beating Dooku. It's a good looking scene. You can see the growth on Anakin's part. I mean, obviously in Attack of the Clones, their duel, Dooku just treats him like a dog. I mean, it's not even close in terms of a skill match here. A few years later, you can see that Anakin has learned a little bit. But really, Nick, I guess the best part of this scene, and it's one of the few times in ROTS you get to see Anakin start to question what he's being told and how he feels, because he did not want to execute Dooku. I mean, he had him beat dead to rights, just like a Jedi should. And it wasn't until Homeboy, literally in a weird way, again, the directing here, do it. It's like, what the fuck? Do it. Like, George, you have Ian McDiarmid. Like, what did you say to him to make him do that? Like,
yeah, it's
because
like,
that's not even Palpatine. Like Palpatine didn't act like that in the original trilogy. No. Do it! No. Like, yeah, I love this. No, Palpatine was cool, calm, collected, and a boss.
Dude, that like when they cut to him and he literally just goes like, yeah. Yeah. It's like, what? Why?
People tell me this is the best Star Wars movie. I guess, hey, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but really analyze this shit. That we're not making this stuff up. It happens. It happened.
It's just so bad.
It's a scene. Okay,
it's a scene.
Important scene, I get.
But I think to like justify your choice here, we actually talked about this scene either last week or a week before last. Like, this scene shows you that at the beginning of this movie, Anakin knows right from wrong. Like, Anakin is in line with the Jedi way. Like, he's like, yep, I got him. I should not kill this guy. Like, he's dead to rights. Like you said, like, he recognizes that this is the Jedi way. Like, what I am doing right now is correct. And then it's Palpatine that pushes him. It's Palpatine that's like, no, too dangerous, blah, 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 that stuff. And then he kills him. But like, you get a sense of what Anakin's moral compass is at this moment. And at this moment, his moral compass is firmly like, this is not what a Jedi would do. And it was, and like, maybe it shouldn't have been. Like, maybe it should have been like more darkness. Like, we're this close to his fall.
Here's what I've been told.
Like,
I've had people try to educate me, and by people I mean Connor from Beyond the Dune Sea. So apparently, Nick, what I missed, this scene was foreshadowing Anakin's arrival in Palpatine's office.
Oh, like that's so obvious.
No. To establish that Anakin does know right from wrong, because you remember when he gets there, even the Mace, he's like, we can't kill him. It's not the Jedi way. So apparently that's why we couldn't see Anakin get a little dark here. It was to keep him and us thinking that, oh, he's figured out his shit. He's good. But for some reason, when a guy is literally electrocuting his own self, and who Anakin knows is a bad guy, was there to arrest him, the one that went and told Mace to go arrest him, then all of a sudden he's like, hey, you know what? Fuck it, who cares?
Here's what I'll say to Connor. Just because it's a mirrored scene doesn't mean it's a good scene. And I'm saying that for both of them. Like, just because this scene mirrors the scene that we see in the throne, or in the, right, in Palpatine's office, like, yeah, they mirror each other. Like, they're made to mirror each other, and I think it's easily recognizable that those scenes mirror each other. Doesn't mean it's good.
Well, yeah, and
it's not good because
I understand his point. Like, I understand his storytelling point. It was established, like, yeah, Anakin does know right from wrong, because he does. Hey, you can't kill him, even though he's the fucking Sith Lord. My point is, in the Dooku scene, you could see the stress that he was under, being forced to make these choices. In the Palpatine scene, he walks in, he's like, hey, you can't do this. Hey. Fuck it. Nah, fuck you. I'm going to bend the knee. That is not earned.
Yeah, and like this right here, like, you want to see the stress. You want to see the struggle. You want it, because like, it would make, and this is what the large majority of your complaints are about this movie, but like, in this scene where he's got Dooku beat dead to rights, like, he should be like, man, I should just cut this motherfucker's head off. I should do this. Like, you should see the darkness creeping in. You should see the indecision. You should see the hesitation of like, like, I know what I should do, but I know that if I kill him, then he's gone, and it's better if he's gone. Like, you want to see the darkness creeping in, and I feel like that's the majority of your argument against this movie is like, the darkness doesn't creep in. Like, the darkness needs to build, and needs to compound, and like, people point to that dream scene, but that dream scene is like, it's like the dream scene isn't showing him leaning towards the darkness. The dream scene is him saying like, oh, like, you could die.
Well,
like,
Nick,
you could die, but there's no
fear.
darkness.
Remember, fear is the dark side. You know what I'm saying. You get me.
Yeah, I know.
It's listen, everyone can love this movie. It's fine. And if you think Anakin's turn is justified, it's fine. Just don't attack me, okay? Just don't attack me, because I'm right and you're wrong, and you'll figure it out at some point in time. Nick nailed it. I don't need to go over it. It never felt justified to me. It never will. Like, you all are telling me, well, what about the dream? What about the opera? It's like, yeah. I mean, the whole time Anakin's like looking at the guy like, you're fucking weird. Like,
you know what Anakin's turn should have looked like? it should have looked like what happened to Frodo in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Like
the dark side is pulling at him so much because of these outside influences that he just breaks down.
Exactly. Like from like we see first time we meet Frodo, he's this happy little kid jaunting around in the Shire, and the wizard is here to see him and fireworks and everything. And then he gets the ring, and then you see the slow degradation of Frodo as a person, not Frodo's physical well-being, but the slow degradation of him as a person to the moment where they're at the ledge in Mount
he's
Doom.
Snapping at his best friend. He kicks his best friend out. I mean,
and then it would like throw it in the fire, and then all he says is no, and he puts the ring on, and that's the Frodo falls. But you saw it through three movies. You see the degradation of the character. You see the madness seeping in. You see the influence that the darkness has on him. Like you said, he kicks, when they're taking the path through Minas Morgul, he kicks Sam off the mountain. Get out of here. Like, you're gone. I am fully now a part of this darkness, and it's me and me alone. And like, you just didn't get that. Like,
no, you nailed it.
That is the way to show the degradation and fall to darkness of a character.
That's what I've been saying, even though I mostly just yell and scream. So thank you, young Nick. That is a very intelligent allegory. I think that works, sort of.
Comparison, whatever it is. That's how I would have wanted to see it.
I'm with you. I appreciate your support. But that's exactly how I feel. I just don't buy it was a dream and a shallow, hollow promise from a chancellor. That's all it took. No, not when he knew right from wrong. Get out of here. All right, sticking with Rots because we love it. Hello there. I mean, for its memeability, it's become Obi-Wan Kenobi's personality at this point in time. Literally, hello there is a thing for him. He's done it in every trilogy and every property he's been in. But visually, it was kind of neat to see this Jedi Master spring, I guess, a trap on Grievous's forces by himself. I mean, literally, if you think about it, Obi-Wan jumps into a hangar filled with battle droids and Grievous, and he's like, all right, let's roll. Hello there.
Dude, what I loved about this scene is it reminded me so much of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
like,
getting
the Raiders,
he turns around and sees all the villagers getting ready to chase him down and shit like that.
Well, no, not that one. It's the scene where the guy. So like, this is when the Magna Guard start to walk towards Obi, and they got their weapons brandished, and then he like brandishes his saber, and then he's like, boop, and the thing falls right on him and crushes him.
Obi.
It's the exact scene in
the
Raiders
sword and the
where
gun.
The guy's he's like swinging the sword, all this shit, and then fucking Indy pulls out a gun and just shoots him and walks.
He's like,
whatever,
sweet,
man.
Dude, boom.
Yeah, because right after the hello there, Magna Guard comes out and he just fucking drops the thing on him, walks forward.
There's a lot of memorable Kenobi moments from this scene. Why it's a top. I mean, he does, his peace sign stance, right? The old point in peace. You get the 212th comes in like paratroops in. It's a great looking visual scene. As Nick said, this is when the movie starts to finally hit its stride. It is on Utapau and. Outside of the actual fall and kneel, I agree. The last half of Rots is somewhat visually entertaining and decent. You're just never going to convince me of the turn. Okay, another one here, and just purely for the visuals, the sound, the knowing that the hero is going to raise his temple. But I have Lord Vader and the 501 marching on the temple.
Yeah. I mean. Just like purely just that top, like this scene, and then into the top down scene where you see the full company come in, like very powerful scene. And it really like, you don't even need to show like, and for a large part, they didn't, they just showed him walking into the youngling.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening. Like you see this and then you're like, oh shit, like it's happening. So yeah, I mean, definitely a powerful scene, and I think is one of the best in the film for sure.
I mean, this is the Lord Vader that Palpatine wanted. This is the character, and obviously he gets maimed and damaged by his buddy a few hours later. But this is a scene we heard about. Vader, helped the Empire hunt down and murdered your father, the Jedi. You finally get to see it. This is why I was so excited about the prequels. The guy is here. Let's see what he did to earn that rep and eventually get himself almost killed by his brother. It really is. It's a visually iconic moment. The music obviously is very touching and memorable. I forget the title track, but you hear like there's like the wailing going on. You really feel it. Like you see Padme crying, the temple's burning. It's just great stuff here. And, it's been nice. We've gotten other angles of this attack, right? From the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That's been nice through Grogu's flashbacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this clearly had to make it, but the Battle of the Heroes is 100% a standout Star Wars scene. I'm not going to deny that. It's very clear. It is probably the most intense, longest duel in all of Star Wars. Visually, it looks wild. I mean, it changes locations. They end up fighting on lava, even though it's ridiculous and that wasn't supposed to happen, but whatever. George does what George does. And really, it's a shame that he does, because I think if Gillard and the team were able to end the fight the way they had planned, where Anakin looks like he's winning, and he literally has Obi-Wan in a force choke, maybe one of his first force chokes to kill. But Obi has enough in him to recall his saber, and in that recall, he ignites it, cuts off Anakin's legs, and then as he gets it, he slices his arm off. And that's how Obi-Wan won versus the whole now highly memeable high ground scene. So listen, people, if there's a lot of fucking memes that come from the prequels, there's not a lot of memes coming from the OT. Okay? That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you. Like, it's unquestionable that this is an iconic moment. And like the way that I explain it is like, once the fight starts, there's essentially no word said until they're floating on the lava river towards the end. Like, you are lost, blah, 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 all that. But like the physicality and not between these two actors in this fight is unquestionable. Like the amount of repetition that they put into the choreographing of this fight, and if you just look at their facial expressions, which I think is the most interesting to watch during the fight because they give you close-ups of their faces. It's like the physicality, the expressions, the clear like sense of anger that Anakin's fighting with, and the clear sense of like loss and just like desperation that Obi-Wan is fighting with, like desperation to save his friend almost, you know, like it's not even
and
like
the galaxy, because he knows like like Yoda says, you have to take this fuck out.
Yeah. And it's like, he's like, and he doesn't want to, like, he doesn't want to kill his friend. And that's why he doesn't at the end. Like he's like, what can I do to where I don't have to kill you, but I can like neutralize you, or like bring this to some sort of end that is not you dying. Like Obi-Wan is fighting with all of his being to achieve that goal, and he just can't. Like he just realizes, like, even in the moment where he's like, he's defeated and he knows that he should kill him. That's why he stands there and yells at him and stares at him that last time on the bank of the river of lava, is like, I should kill. I know what Yoda told me to kill you, but I can't do it. I physically can't do it. I think that this scene is, even for its like memeability at the end with the high ground, and like, it's like there's a lot of wand wavy and flashy lights and bright colors, but it's like the intensity and everything that's put into this scene by the two actors is you can feel it regardless. Like it's just
I mean, this honestly, it's not like I've seen a ton of movie duels I didn't really get into the swashbuckling shit from the black and white era. So I'm trying to think, but if you just think of a pure saber duel, this has in all of cinema, this probably is in the top 5, if not top 3, right? I mean, it's just from, as you said, a performer viewpoint, what these dudes put into this fight. But it is, I mean, when you think about of how great this fight is, the ballet that it provides, but it is hard to think about the end and how it ends, and it's just rough, man. The high ground. I mean,
like I said, dude. Anytime people talk in the prequels, it's just like, just don't.
What are we
just
doing?
Don't
like
say
like, what are we doing? How as the chosen one, with all that energy and bouncing around, you decide, hey, this is a good time to just sit here and fucking brag a little bit about my skills.
Do you remember when TLJ released, there was that version of the movie that came out on Movies Anywhere if you bought it on a digital platform and connected to Movies Anywhere, that was just the movie with no dialogue and then the soundtrack over it? That's what all the prequels should have been. Because the dialogue is so bad.
I clip that shit
all the time. Like, it's so bad.
It takes you out of greatness at times, and this is a perfect example.
And like so we're past it now. So I'll say the other line read that I think that Ewan, like, there was nothing he could do about it, and he was probably instructed to say this, but like, it's the line where right before he goes to Mustafar, he's sitting on the balcony with Padme, and he's like, I saw a video of him killing younglings. I was like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? It's like, and then like Natalie's line back is like, no. It's like, it's the worst.
It is bad.
Like,
I honestly,
it's just so bad.
I think our next special topic, once we're done with this, should be Nick reenacting bad dialogue moments from the prequels, because this is fucking fantastic.
Like I just, for a movie that and it's just like, and unfortunately, like, it happens in the sequels too. Like there's just line reads that are trash, and like lines that are written that are terrible. Like, somehow Palpatine returned. Like, obviously that's awful, but like this shit in here, like, is equally as bad. Like, everybody memes somehow Palpatine returned now because it's like really fucking bad.
That's my point. Like Star Wars memes usually they come to fruition because of something silly, wonky, or bad.
Yeah, it's like the dialogue reads, like some of the dialogue reads in the prequels are some of the worst dialogue reads I've ever seen.
The best part,
straight
George
up.
Lucas on set's like, yep, fucking cut.
Yeah.
Cut. Got it.
Move
Next.
on. Yeah.
Ewan,
Move on.
You killed that line about the ray shields, bro. Fucking killed it.
It's like,
and people are watching it like,
and
what,
look,
is he seeing something that we're not? Because this is like fucking Sci-Fi Channel shit.
Yeah, like the script supervisor's like, ooh, yeah, I guess that's a cut then.
You sure, George? You don't want to try another take? Maybe change the words up a little bit, change the tone? Nope.
It's like,
nailed it.
Yeah. It's like, you don't want to let Ewan Cook, the guy who is going to win an Oscar in the future, like, you don't want to let that guy think of some stuff? No? Okay. Let's go.
All right. Well, hey, we're not done with Rots yet. I got 2 more coming at you. Penultimate, Yoda v. Palpatine. All right, come on. Visually impressive. You had the tops of their orders battling for the first time, and a good guy loses. And there's a lot to say about good guys losing in Star Wars, because it doesn't happen very often. So it was a fun battle from start to finish. Kind of starts Old West style. He walks into Palpatine's office, flicks his little tunic back, drops his cane, takes out the Imperial Guards. And then you get to see Sidious and his physical prowess in his shitty, butt plug lightsaber. But I do dig this battle in the Senate chamber.
Dude, there's one moment in this fight that it just, like, every time I think about it, it pops in my head. It's like when the Yoda's saber flies out of his hand, and Sidious is laying into him with the lightning, and Yoda's blocking it. And then, like, it builds up, and like Ian makes this face that's just like, the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's like when
what's this happening? Like, like he's taking a big shit or something. Like like a turd's not coming out. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like this scene was fun because it was just so funny to see him just like throwing all these Senate
pods are flying
and all
around.
This shit, and like I'm like, Jesus Christ, man! Like this is insane. It's an insane scene to watch, and it's not bad. Like it's not bad, but it's just funny every time I watch it because you got like Yoda jumping around to different fucking to different Senate pods. Like he's like a monkey swinging on like tree limbs and shit, and like Palpatine's just up there laughing, swinging his arms around. It's just a wild scene to watch for sure. It's just so funny.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, our buddy loses, and as we said a few weeks ago, if it wasn't for Bail Organa, then the galaxy loses too, because Bail saved the Jedi Order, not Yoda and Obi-Wan. Bail Organa did. All right, final moment here, and this one is legit. It's probably one of the only well done scenes in Revenge of the Sith, and that is Darth Vader's first breath in the suit. Really, the whole construction of the suit, the surgery, I love that. I mean, that's the stuff
up until.
Don't worry, I'm getting there, buddy. Don't worry. Just like every other scene we've talked about, it does get ruined, like you were about to say. But this is what I wanted to see in the prequels. Not obviously not a full movie of him putting the suit on, but these moments, seeing Anakin suffer and just, the droids working on him. But really, that point of view, we get to see him looking up, and it's Anakin Skywalker's last time using his eyes, and it locks on, and he takes that first breath, and I actually can hear him. I think he says he exhales like Padme is like the last thing he gets out, but you see that it goes like the seal comes in, and then and his first breath in the suit it's a pretty strong moment until they prop his ass up, Sidious tweaks his tits, and gets him to act like a brain-dead fucking Frankenstein's monster doing the no as he lumbers out. Doesn't even look like a capable functioning humanoid. Like I guess he just got new legs, but if the dude can crush an entire lab and rip out steel restraints, I think the motherfucker would be able to walk too. But yeah,
like I said,
just as you're probably going to say, it just cheapens all of the feels that this scene starts to build up, right?
It's whenever they talk, like whenever like people start to talk in the prequels, it all goes downhill. Like there's just, he didn't nail any of the dialogue. Like there's stuff that's like watchable and like you're going to get through it. There's not a memorable line read from the fucking prequels that I can think of right now. Like there's no, and now young Skywalker, you will die. Like there's none of it. There's nothing. Sister, like nothing.
Obi-Wan's failure is complete. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Indeed, you are more powerful than the Emperor has foreseen.
Yeah, like there's so many like I am your father. So many memorable line reads from the OT, and there are none from the prequels. Zero. No. And like
this is where the fun begins.
Yeah. This is pod racing.
I'll tell you what.
That might be the most memorable line.
I doubt Nick has seen this, but if anyone else has seen it, I might have put it in our Discord. It's fantastic. Someone takes the opening ROTS montage, where Anakin is kind of commanding R2 to scan and deal with the buzz droids.
Oh, and they put young Anakin
No. They let us hear what R2 is thinking as Anakin's giving these commands, and it's hilarious. He's like, which one of these 5 million targets do you want me to lock onto, idiot? And he's like, yeah, I see. They're literally biting the ship right. It's like anytime Anakin says something, R2 has a sassy reply.
Nice. No, I saw one where it was like young Anakin dubbed over the intro to ROTS, and I was like, oh gosh, this is so funny.
All right, so that takes us out of ROTS. Now, like I said, we're going to wrap with Kenobi and Solo here before the fan segment. Bat's seeing it here, the 20,000 targets, and R2's like, yeah, which one do you want me to lock onto, asshole? Okay.
It's like
so. Shifting into the Kenobi series. I mean, again, Kenobi. I know it's 10 years after the prequels, but it still felt like prequel Kenobi. They were hashing through their prequel shit. So yeah, it's in this conversation of top moments. And Nick, I'm starting with Vader terrorizing a town just to flush out Kenobi. You know, he murdered a few people, dragged the guy out of his house, broke his neck while his wife watched, and just slowly lumbers towards his prey. And really just embarrasses Obi-Wan and his sleeping Force abilities, so much so that he gets a little retribution from his own burning and lights our man on fire. Now, obviously, the optics of the scene are silly. It's very prequel-esque. It's like, okay, Vader, you had your guy, and you literally just have a line of fire, but you're going to let a droid walk behind it and get away with him. So
yeah, I was gonna say, dude, like he got so easily distracted in that scene.
It's like he was almost masturbating as he was watching Obi-Wan kind of relive his burning experience. But really, come on. I mean, we get to see Darth Vader again, being Darth Vader, just terrorizing that town, and the fear it was putting in the Obi-Wan, so much so that it wasn't even a duel the first time they met in the Kenobi series.
Yeah, no, I mean, like this was like while he, like when he is going through that city before he finds Kenobi, it's like a horror movie scene when the fucking when like Jason or Michael Myers is like slowly plotting behind his target, but you know he's gonna get him. And like you said, like he's ripping people out of their homes, like killing people indiscriminately. Like that's the type of Vader that we're like, make a whole show around that dude. Like just understand as a collective group of Star Wars creators that like visceral, angry, malevolent Vader is what people want to see. That's why people watch that show. Like, and they need to understand that. And like that, that was just
I do
like
not know why this
Vader
character
stuff.
is seemingly untouchable. I don't. I mean, he is Star Wars. George himself has said it. I mean, Star Wars 1 through 6 is purely about this character. No one else. It is the journey of Anakin Skywalker from slave boy to redeemed Jedi Master. And the fact that, as Nick said, one of the live action series that you did get a massive nostalgia bump from was Kenobi because of the titular character, and probably even more so the allure of seeing the Man in Black show up again and actually do stuff and be a menace and be malevolent, like blah blah blah. I'll let Nick say those bigger words. So don't be surprised that most of the top scenes coming out of Kenobi are Vader centric. All right. So the next one, big surprise, Vader single-handedly taking down a transport Starkiller style, and then the cherry on top, making his recently named Grand Inquisitor look like a complete and utter incompetent putz in the duel that he has with Reva. It's one of the more impressive shows of Vader's power, both in the Force and his skills in fighting. Yeah,
I mean, this is the type of stuff that we've always wanted to see from this character, and that we've like never even really seen in cartoon form, you know, like we
comic books at best is where you get some of this.
Yeah. And I just think that like, however they approach the Kenobi, you know, series, like that's how you have to approach anything that's related to Vader. Like you can't be afraid to use him. Like you like, and it feels like that sometimes. It feels
he's
like
a sacred cow for some reason, and I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, but when you do it well, like they did in this show, like it's fucking great.
Amazing. He's amazing.
I mean, no question.
The show really should have just been called Vader. As much as I enjoyed some of the Kenobi stuff, the Vader just dominates these standout moments. Case in point, more Vader. So the scene Vader here, obviously, this is a probably in all of Star Wars one of my my favorites here. But it's the Anakin is gone. I am what remains. I am not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did.
Look at that. A memorable line read from the TV show, and we couldn't rattle off one from all three prequels. Like, just, it was perfectly delivered, and it was done in a way that shows you the depth of madness of this character.
Yeah, he's bonkers.
And I think when he says that too, he smiles.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's this evil grin that comes across his face, and you're like, oh, this is how far we've fallen. Like it was so well done, and it was like you give Hayden something like that, and you let him cook with something like that, and you get this scene, and like you get that moment, and it was just like,
yeah, it's brilliant. Like I said, I mean, it would probably be in my top 10 overall. Like we'll probably have to do that when we're all said and done, right? We'll do our top 10 overall, but this goes there for the points Nick laid out. It was beautifully dark, if you will, beautifully dark.
Yeah.
Well, we got to give him a little bit of love since it was his series. And Nick, I put the two images here, and really there was 3 discussions that Obi-Wan had with young Leia, and they were all emotionally powerful because we could see the pain he had in his heart talking to this essentially orphan child because of what her parents got into right before she was born. But if I have to settle on one, I'll probably go with their final exchange on Alderaan, where he really sits her down and kind of lays out to her like, listen, you're pretty awesome, and you need to know that you get that both from your mother, she gives you this, but your father, who you also never knew, my one-time brother, he gave you this. And it was a pretty powerful moment for, I would assume, most fanboys to kind of see that through line, see what Obi-Wan went through in this series and how fucked up he was because of Anakin. But by the end, he was able to remember his brother and let his brother's daughter know, like, listen, you are awesome because of these people, and I will always be here for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those moments that, like, looking back on it now, like just these 3 scenes, I'm like, well, yeah, like this is why Kenobi was one of my, like, probably either number 1 or number 2 in terms of Star Wars TV series. Like it's very close between Kenobi and The Mandalorian. And it's because like of scenes like this where you're building the bonds, you're building character relationships, you're like opening and closing character loops that have persisted in the storytelling since since Star Wars was incepted. Like it's like powerful moments between key characters that like we haven't been able to see anywhere else for a while. And I think that like the team that made Kenobi is just like Deborah Chow and like everybody who wrote on this show. They understood the weight of the characters in this show, and they executed on it very well. And like it almost felt like in some other like instances of Star Wars TV and movies that like they didn't fully understand the weight of the characters that they were working with. And I feel like Deborah and team on Kenobi really understood the assignment, and they executed it to a very high level. Yeah,
100%. It goes to your point too, Nick. We're talking about dialogue.
Yeah.
Dialogue. Like, Star Wars, in my opinion, is at its best through the dialogue.
Exactly. Like flashy colors and cool CG and ships flying all over and explosions. It's really cool to watch, but it's not substantive.
Right. That's not how you weave lore. You weave lore through dialogue and world building and character building, not action and flash. I love the action and flash, but that's never been why I love Star Wars, because of the story, which comes from the dialogue.
Like I guess for me, like that's why like Andor is a great show, well executed, but like people are like, oh, I love Andor because Andor doesn't feel like Star Wars, or like Andor is like it's like a spy show with a Star Wars skin. And it's like, yeah, but I like Star Wars. Like I like Star Wars for Star Wars. And like, yeah, I like spy movie. Yeah, I love Jason Bourne and stuff like that. But like, I like Kenobi because Kenobi is Star Wars expression at one of the highest levels that we've seen in a while. Like, and that's why I rank this show above Andor when everybody else is like, Andor is the best. Like, to me, Kenobi is unquestionably the best because I like Star Wars and I like Star Wars characters and I like these characters when they're done extremely well. And in Kenobi, they're done extremely well. Yeah. So it's like, that's why Andor to me is like, yeah, it's cool, but it's like, I don't give a fuck about these characters. Like,
yeah, you're right.
Whatever. They're all dead in a week. Like,
yeah, you got great points. I loved Andor, and I still felt like it was Star Wars correct, without the mysticism. But yeah, I mean, Kenobi definitely perfected that, and I think Ahsoka got close, and I think you would still be talking very favorably about Ahsoka if it weren't for episodes
if it wasn't for
6,
Thrawn.
7, and 8. Yeah,
if it wasn't for Thrawn, they really
it was
all
rough
the marks.
Because I remember I was like, damn, this is fun. Like, Nick's actually into this shit. We're having great convos, and then episode 6 comes, and I could just see the joy get ripped from your soul. It's like you were done. You checked out of Ahsoka. You're like, fuck this. All right.
It's just like they had done such a good job until he came in, and I was like, oh my God, you fucking dropped the ball at the 1. You dropped it at the 1. You only had one more character left.
I do feel like Ahsoka had the dialogue and the action going for it for the most part. You know,
it did. It was
but
so
Thrawn ruined it
close.
for you. I know.
It did.
All right, I don't want to get you worked up. All right, we got one more property to get through before we reveal our personal top 5s, and that is our boy Solo. And one scene here, Nick, I'll never forget. I just remember how funny it was the first time I saw it, but it also scratched a lore itch for me. And it was the first ever meeting between Chewie and Han, and we got to see them in that mud pit, and how Han was supposed to be Chewie's lunch. But then they somehow act out a plan to get out together. I thought it was a great way to establish their bond and why they go on to essentially become boyfriends in the franchise. Yeah. And I give a lot of credit to Lord and Miller, because I think this is the scene that got them fired, because they spent, I believe, 4 weeks to shoot it. Because they wanted so many different outtakes and different, deliveries of some of the comedy. But it really, I felt it captured that Han and Chewie essence, if you will.
Dude, I 100% agree. Like, this scene, it set the stage for what their relationship would be like from this moment until when Han died in TFA. Like, it was such a good representation of the two characters and how they interact with each other, and like how their relationship is built. And I just think that it was a home run. Like, they knocked that out the park. And it was such a pivotal scene too. Like, leading up to the release of this movie, I was like, I really want to see how they do the Han and Chewie meeting.
Yeah, it's
like,
big shit.
Yeah, and I think that they really kind of nailed the tone of it. Like, him speaking Shriwook and like all that stuff. It's like,
Chewie's
so
like,
well
what the
done.
fuck? He's like, burger. Yeah. Literally, Han is getting beaten to death, he realized, like, hey, by him throwing me at this pole, we could get out. So let me try to get this beast to understand that.
Yeah. Dude, it was just so well done, and it fit the tone of this movie perfectly. And like, that's why I like Solo so much, is like, Solo feels like an appropriate departure from Star Wars, but in a way that like makes sense for the characters that are involved.
Alden and Eunice were fantastic. They really were. I would go watch Solo 2 in a heartbeat tomorrow. Because that was the dynamic that made that movie for me. And watching these two together throughout the whole movie was just a fucking blast.
like just talking about this scene makes me want to go watch Solo again. I haven't watched it in a little bit. Like I may boot it up later and like just because I really enjoyed that movie.
I'm glad we're doing this because I'm at the point of year where I get 4 weeks off. So yeah, you can hate me. I love it. And throughout those 4 weeks for the past couple years, I've done the rewatch of the movies. So it's fun to talk about this and get some new ideas to go back and watch and have a laugh. But yeah, this is just thinking about this scene's bringing smiles to my face. All right, one more top scene from Solo, and I know Nick and I were on the same page with this one. It's pretty much the Kessel Run mission itself. I forgot that there was the droid uprising caused by Lee. Yeah, that was great. But to me, Nick, I think the standout is the escape from the mall or whatever it was, the Kessel Run itself, and how they had to incorporate Leet into the Falcon, and at the last second, she got her programming in there, and Han, with his supreme piloting abilities, was able to kind of save the day. And obviously we got to see his legend come to fruition in the Kessel Run that we hear him talk about in A New Hope. So it checked a lot of boxes for a super fan.
Exactly. Like the moment, like you understand why the Falcon's Navicomputer is the best in the galaxy. You understand how the less than 12 parsecs happen. You understand the Kessel, like it brings all of these just wildly iconic like line reads and dialogue from the original trilogy to life in a way that's like fun and exciting and really like brings understanding to like Han and his perception in the galaxy. Like, why does this Jabba the Hutt respect this dude so much that he would like give him a second chance and like really, you know, have him as one of his trusted smugglers early on in his career? It's because of this. And it was so well executed by, I don't know if Lord and Miller were involved as well as Ron Howard or what hands touched this, but like the scene, as soon as they get on Kessel, the droid uprising, everything that happens to Leet all the way through the finish of the Kessel Run, I think was just so well done. It used all of the characters in that troop so well. Like it was a next level type of experience when I saw that in theaters. I was like, this is some fun shit. And if this is what they wanted to do with the spinoffs, it's like bring those iconic moments that you never got to see to life like this. I was like, I'm all in.
I mean, just we would have got to see how he falls out with Jabba.
He dumped the spice.
Dumping
like, what's the spice
dumping
dump?
it when the Imperials showed up. Like, what was that mission? And how many great successes did he have before that? But oh well. Bob wanted Mary Poppins, and Star Wars fans decided to stage a strike over their childhoods being ruined by TLJ, whatever nonsense that was. But yeah, it's a great film. It still holds up, and it's a shame that we never got to kind of see the trilogy
Continue
or at
with
least
these
a sequel to fruition. Well, there you go, my friends. Those are the top scenes from the prequels, Kenobi and Solo. Real quick before we put this bit to bed, our personal top fives. I'll go ahead and start with my co-host, Young Nick here. Coming in at number 5, he had the ROTS opening.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Number 4, the one we just discussed, the Kessel Run droid uprising. Number 3, the Boonta Eve pod race. Fred hit the drums. Mm-hmm. Number 2, Battle of the Heroes. And number 1... Duel of the Fates. Okay, now we'll slide over to mine, see if we are in line. And we are not, because I do find some pros in Attack of the Clones. So my number 5 is the Seismic Charge. Got to do that.
Whoa.
Yep, my number 4. Look at me. I am Mr. Attack of the Clones, is Anakin's Tusken Hate. Number 3... Anakin is gone. That is the scene we just talked about from Kenobi. Number 2, Vader's first breath. I clearly have a hard-on for the Man in Black. And finally, because we are co-hosts and some have accused us of being a dyad in the Force, my number one, Duel of the Fates.
There we go.
Hey, now.
There we go.
All right, that was good. So, I think next week we're gonna do our year end as we usually do, because that'll be our last show of 2023. So I anticipate coming back to this and covering Andor, Rogue One, and then the original trilogy for our first show in 2024. So hopefully you dug this. We are not done. Like I said, we still have 2 more episodes to get through of the SWTS top scenes from live action Star Wars. All right. Appreciate you, people. We appreciate you so much. We dedicate a weekly fan segment to all of our fandos out there. There's 2 ways to get involved. Well, these days we're approaching 3. We have Ask Us a Question, which we did to kick the show off today. We have our Question to the Fan, which we always theme around one of our topics. And then, of course, our top 5 Star Wars fan artist features. So we usually start with the question of the week. This week's question was obviously themed to our special topic. So we are asking fans, what is your top scene from that era of films? And if I can get the correct graphic up, we will get into it. So there you go. Your question of the week. What is one of your favorite scenes from the prequels, Kenobi, or the Solo movie? And the usual suspects came out in full force. Nick, let's hear it.
Indeed, they did. So to kick it off this week, we have @RipicTan on the Instagram. He says, the scene in Rots when Palps finally reveals his true identity to Anakin. That scene is terrific with Ian's facial expressions and line delivery, plus the musical cues and changes in themes. Such and great turning point in the film.
He's talking about when Anakin figures it out and pulls his lightsaber on him and talks a big game like
yes. You're the
right,
Sith
and
Lord.
then he just shits the bed. So yeah, go Rots. All right.
Yeah. I mean, like that little, like, it's like a walk around scene. Like they walk around.
That's a good
each
scene.
other.
You're like, yeah, Anakin, you finally figured it out. But whatever, we spent too much time on it already. Go ahead. Up next.
Next up, League of Extraordinary Sixthers says, I totally enjoyed watching Yoda duel. In the OT, we don't really see that. So watching it in the prequels was dope. Even though I'm not a Solo enthusiast, I did enjoy the train heist. Kenobi train heist almost made mine because the train heist was. It was really first time you see Cloud Riders. First time, like that's when you lose Val.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that the range troopers and their Magno boots.
Yeah, dude, there's like that. That was a sick scene. Like the fighting on the moving train with the mag boots.
Good point out, League. I am ashamed of myself that I left that out. That is definitely, that should have been one of ours.
Yeah, that was awesome. And then
you have failed me.
They say Kenobi for me were the interactions between Kenobi and Anakin / Vader. So yeah, I mean, like the dialogue.
Not the flashies, not the vroom vrooms and the pew pew.
Our good friends at Beyond the Dune Sea, they say all of Revenge of the Sith, and then have Chef's Kiss.
Mother, that's his sign off to us now. I love it. Well, good for them.
All of Revenge of the Sith. Some questionable stuff in there. I know that they're Jedi and they should know better than this, but they still got caught in those ray shields. So 2797 Studios, our good friend Bat, he says, just one? Oh boy.
We're smarter than this.
The Maul. We're smarter than that to know to pick one. He says, well, Maul duel in TPM, the clones in AOTC, Anakin / Obi-Wan duel in Rots, Vader / Obi-Wan duel in Kenobi, and finally
the Kiesel run. That's the
Kiesel run in Solo.
That one you can do in less than 10 parsecs. The Kiesel run is less than 10.
Run.
Kessel is 12.
A lot shorter. Yeah.
Not bad, Bat. You think all right. You think correctly.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Bango31 says, got a question for the lads. I personally love the idea of making Solo a heist film. However, would you have preferred a different kind of heist? And did the introduction of spaceship fuel annoy you as much as it did me? I'd always operated on the assumption that they discovered some infinite energy source for the ships and had moved beyond cosmic Cadillacs. No, I mean, I'll respond to the question first. Like the Starship fuel thing never really got to me because like like Star Trek, they have starship fuel and
yeah,
everything
it
they
was
do.
so new. I was like, all right, coaxium, sure. It's like this little crystal. Okay.
Yeah, like I assume that there was some sort of starship fuel because like in every other sci-fi property they had starship fuel of some sort. So we just like I was just like, oh, we just never saw it. How do you prefer would I have preferred a different heist? I mean, here's the thing: is like the heist itself is such a short part of that film. You know, like. The heist itself is only like the beginning. Like
well, there's technically two. You have the train, yeah, so and then you have the big coaxium heist at Kessel.
Yeah, like there's multiple parts of it, and like I rather enjoyed both of the heists because like the Kessel heist turned into the fucking droid uprising fiasco, all this shit. Like that was super fun to watch, and then I thought that the train heist was really well done. I think that the train scenes and stuff were all
it
awesome.
Sounds like Bango digs it. It just the MacGuffin, if you will, wasn't his preference. And
yeah, he didn't like the fuel.
So to answer Bango directly, no, I would not have preferred because I'm with Nick. It didn't really bother me.
Yeah, I just thought that it was like,
I mean, it's space. They're stealing something spacey sounding, so good enough. I was like, fuck it.
Like, I mean,
it makes sense that the Empire would have been hoarding that shit at this point in time. It would have been gold to rebels or people that weren't in the Empire. So I don't know. I guess I honestly didn't even put any thought to it. It was like they need to steal shit. It could literally have been a box of shit, and as long as it looked neat. I mean, like. And had decent dialogue, I'm in.
Like, how much do you want to use Kyber crystals? Like, yeah, they could be stealing Kyber crystals, but like, how often can you be like, yeah, Kyber crystal this, Kyber crystal that, there's Kyber crystals over here. Like, I feel like it worked, but yeah. Nova Toymation says Duel of the Fates and TPM. We got pieces of this in the trailers leading up to its release, and I remember the anticipation of seeing this scene in theaters. It definitely didn't let me down. Yeah.
That's the one thing I wonder, the youngins, like the prequel hardcores, I wonder, do they feel like they missed out, that they didn't get to live through the release of the movies as an adult? Like, because I will never forget TPM. I was a freshman in college up at Kent State in my dorm room, finally on a LAN because it was a college campus. I had dial-up at home. Trying to find the goddamn trailer. You know how hard it was to find trailers back in the turn of the century?
Oh, yeah, because there was no YouTube. There was no like video hosting platforms.
So when I actually found a copy of it, I still know, I think it might have been Kazaa or peer-to-peer. I would watch that over and over. I was the guy that bought tickets to Monsters, Inc. just to watch the trailer, and then I would leave. It was so fucking exciting preparing for TPM.
Yeah, I think that like... Now it's just like it's such a different experience because everything is readily available.
Dude, I hate trailers now. I literally the way I'm so close to my theater, I leave when the movie is scheduled to start. So I know I'm going to miss the 20 minutes of trailers, and I'm going to sit down right when Nicole Kidman tells me that movies are important and AMC is the best. Like, yeah. But you are right. I mean, trailers, at least to me, they used to be appointment viewing. Like, trailers coming out was a fucking thing, especially for the Star Wars prequels. It was like, oh my God, which movie are they going to attach it to? And can I go there and see it and leave?
Yeah. So, just a different time now, but hey, what
they don't give a fuck about anything. I mean, all these generations care about are their verticals. Like, hey, what sort of stupid shit's on TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram today? They can give two fucks about the next Star Wars movie or show.
Gone are those days. But close this one out. Mando Pirates says Duel of the Fates and Pod Race and TPM, Jango Fett and Obi-Wan Chase and AOTC, Order 66 and ROTS, and Anakin and Obi-Wan duel, Vader and Kenobi duel, and Kenobi in the final Kessel, and finally the
Mando's
Kessel Run and train
locked and loaded. Way to go.
He's got it locked and loaded. Yeah, I mean, we didn't mention Order 66. I mean, like, those are a lot of like disparate scenes pieced together, and I think they did a pretty good job.
Right, but
Some of that shit looked wonky
it's
too.
Not real
gonna lie.
standout. I mean, watch Isla get killed the way she falls down.
like,
watch Kiara Mundi, and it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, like some of those
the only
death
ones that
scenes
look
were
good are
questionable.
I think it was like Adi Gallia. She just kind of blows up on like a column on her speeder, and then Plo, he gets blown up in his ship.
Yeah, Plo's was the best because he's like ping-ponging off the buildings
fireball
and shit.
takes him out. But yeah, some of the Order 66 deaths, like
a
Nick said,
little weird.
It was like the C unit, the intern. George was like, hey, see that fucking green wall over there? Film Kiadi falling over for me real quick. It's like, all right, George, you got it.
Ayla, can you just like go like this and fall? Just like wave your arms in the air and then spin.
I mean,
all right.
Security literally, she does. She like swoons over, like, oh, it's like, oh, these blasters are too much.
It's like an old 20s
exactly.
woman
That's what I mean.
down,
like swooning, like puts her arm up, like, oh, here's King Kong to take me up the Empire State Building.
Oh, gosh.
All right, my friends,
Yeah.
while we get the screen
time.
switched around, Nick, let's kick into the final segment here, that top 5 that everyone loves to see.
The top 5, if you want to get involved in this here segment on the Star Wars Time Show, make sure to follow us at StarWarsTime.show on Instagram. We've got our account back over 1,000 follows after it getting nuked by Instagram, so we're slowly building back up. Follow us at StarWarsTime.show on Instagram, and then on any of your Star Wars art pieces, tag us at Star Wars Time Show. Add tag at Star Wars Time Show, and then go ahead and use that hashtag Star Wars Time Show on there as well. Matt will make his featured image vignette from all of the different ways that you can involve yourself, hashtags, tags, and ats. But I only pull the top 5 from the tagged post. So make sure to add tag.
Yes. Very important if you want to make the top 5. You got to get in front of Lord Nick's eyes, because I'll be seeing it.
You gotta.
And we do the daily reels. I just no longer save them in the main profile because that shit was starting to look like word vomit. So for the most part, the art reels are now in our reels tab if you need to see those.
There you go. So to kick off the top 5,
I fucking love this shot.
This one's awesome. This is from Galactic Photography.
There's been a series
66.
all week, Nick. I don't know if you saw like Galactic's build up to this kill, but they were kind of detailing the duel until this shot that you picked to honor here.
Yeah, so this is part 3 of Galactic Photography 66's Marok versus Marek, which is
that's right. Marek and Marok. You are right.
Yeah, so it's Star Killer from Force Unleashed, and then Marok, the nobody character from Ahsoka.
Gas bag boy.
Yes, the gas bag guy, and it's the killing blow. It's the kill shot here from Galen Merrick, aka Star Killer, to Marok, the gas bag in armor, and what we see is Star Killer fully mounted on his prone foe on the ground, driving his saber through his chest, with sparks igniting coming up from the armor itself, and the visceral look of anger as he drives his blade into Marok's chest. It's just really well executed.
That facial expression, man, is fucking great. Yeah, I'm not laughing at it because it's funny. I'm just laughing at it because it's funny. I love it. This is
it's great.
Star Killer is a Black Series. I know they don't sell it in stores, but if I saw him, I'd probably pick him up because he is a great looking figure. I think he's got multiple head sculpts, as you can see here with the screaming expression. But there's just something about this shot and him through the chest of Marok here. It kicks ass. So love it. Galactic Photography 66. Job well done on this little scene you provided for us this week.
Indeed. Good stuff. Next up, Galagus Rax picks here with the Bespin scene between Lando and Vader. Yeah, like, I will alter the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. But yes, just that scene where you have Lando talking to Vader as they make their way through the Bespin hallways. You can even see Boba Fett way there in the background.
I like
making
do you
his
see,
way
do you see
off.
Boba? He's literally he's
just
bombing the pic.
looking-
I mean that's a
Yeah, he's like
that's a
looking
photo
directly at the
bomb. I
camera.
love it.
But I just think that it was a fantastic scene composition here by Galagus Raxpix, and it's one of the
Lobot.
obviously, it's obviously a great scene here between Lando and Vader as they discuss the deal that has been altered.
Galagus Raxpix is a fucking killer when it comes to scenes and the 3.75-inch figs, because these are all the tiny babies here. But Galagus always has scenes packed with figures, and I just applaud them for their patience, because I wonder how many times those motherfuckers dominoed themselves as they were placing the last figure. It's one of the coolest things you can experience as a toy photographer when your subjects quit on you just as you're about ready to snap the shutter. But yeah, Galagus Raxpix Instagram.
That's it. Next up is at Trooper_Outpost on Instagram. And it's just like sometimes just seeing bucketheads on Tatooine, the Dune Sea in Tatooine, sometimes it just does it for me. And it like this one honestly reminded me of Ches Pix a lot. Like Ches is one of the well-known toy photographers in the community. And he really does focus a lot of his shots on like Twin Sun Tatooine and stuff like that. And Trooper Outpost gave us this. It's two of the troopers assigned to go look for the droids that were missing after the Tantive 4 was taken into the belly of the beast. And you can see them there with their full packs on, their long gun machine rifles there, and then the Twin Sons of Tatooine in the background. I just think that like it's a really well done job here by Trooper Outpost of catching that Twin Sun off in the background, and then obviously the golden hour to really bring home the Tatooine sunset.
Yeah, when you talk about them being the troopers looking for the droids, I'm reminded. I just saw. I don't know if it's a mashup, a meme. But you know when they lift up the ring and they're like, oh, there's droids here? Someone has now turned that into that's the one ring, and somehow it's connected into Star Wars or whatnot.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, Trooper Outpost, they almost predominantly just shoot these two troopers in different locations, so it's kind of a thing. But like you said, this definitely channeling that Ches Pix golden hour, not shower look, and I dig it. I mean, listen, we all love the Empire for whatever reason we have. Mine has always been they look rad as fuck.
Yeah, they do. And they look rad as fuck in the shot, right?
Exactly.
100%. Next up, this is from haunting_the_nerd on Instagram. And honestly, like, I haven't seen a ton of shots using Sith troopers from the sequel trilogy, but this is one of the best that I've seen.
This is a bit of an eras mashup, actually. You got a Sith leading, and then the two flanking are actually Purge troopers from Kenobi. So I mean, they definitely have used some of the different eras of troopers at their own at their disposal and in their own way. But I think it works really well. Like you have this. This dominant figure. Actually, it wasn't there. No, that was Commander Pyre was all gold in Star Wars Resistance, right? I thought there was one all red trooper. And I know there was a red pilot, Von Reg from Star Wars Resistance, but I do believe this
is a Sith trooper figure. Yeah, so. I just think that it's a well-staged scene. So you have the Sith trooper in the foreground whipping a full black cape, and then behind him, like you mentioned, the two Purge troopers with their, I think it's Purge trooper commanders with their pauldrons on, and it's set in this like nice misty kind of outdoor setting. You got some leafless trees in the background and some craggy, rocky environment that they're walking over. I just think it's a well-composed shot, and the figures look really cool in the way they're captured.
I've always said that when I loved... Oh, Jesus. Sorry. I think I just threw up. when I loved this hobby, it was outdoor, natural settings, natural light. And that's what we have here from Haunting the Nerd. a canon update from our buddy Bat. Apparently, this dude's name was Cardinal, Captain Cardinal, Commander Cardinal, something like that. I don't know. I'm taking Bat's word for it. I'm too lazy to look it up. Plus, I'm driving the machine so they'd see me looking it up. But it doesn't matter. All that matters is that we appreciate the shot from haunting_the_nerd.
That's right. And then to close it out, we got to click to open.
Give us some time. Give the operator here a little bit of time.
And it's a good one.
You can talk it up a little bit. Now I got to go. I got to do one more click because
one more click. But what we have here is from Gree01. Gree has been a mainstay in the top 5 for many years now, and we have a very emotional shot here from the Clone Wars time period, and it is like recreating a moment that ultimately leads us to where we are now in the Ahsoka series. It's Ahsoka and Anakin standing outside the Jedi Council chambers as it has literally come down that, like, I think it's like
this is when
right soon
this
after
is when she leaves.
She's expelled from the order.
This is her walking out and telling him, like, hey man, I'm out.
Yeah, like this is like her last moments at the Jedi Temple before she leaves and sets off on her own. And this is after the trial where she is essentially accused by, everybody within the superstructure of the Republic, and then summarily dismissed from the order. And she's like, look, I'm gone. Like, I'm not ever going to come back. Like, and in the line that he puts in the caption is really good too. The council didn't trust me, so how can I trust myself? Just a good moment here. Anakin standing behind young Ahsoka, hand on her shoulder as she, faces away from the only life that she knew, like, preparing to leave the Jedi Order and the Republic and set off on her own journey for the first time ever.
Yep.
So I thought it was a very well executed shot, very powerfully done by Gree01.
Yeah, there's really not much I can add here. It's like Gree found a stockpile of old school Clone Wars figures and has just been tearing it up this past week. So I agree with Nick. This is the one that really stood out from the line of these animated 3.75 figs that Gree's been putting out there. But that's that. Give him a follow, GREE01 on Instagram.
That's right. And that is the end of the top 5 and thus the end of our show. So, Matt, go ahead and close us out.
Thank you, good sir. As Nick said, that brings us to the end of E289. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the special topic. Like I said, don't forget, it is not done. We have at least 2 more parts coming out over the next few weeks of the SWTS. But as we always like to remind you at the end of a show, don't forget StarWarsTime.net. That's our home base on the internet, the best place to find all of the important information and links you may need to get linked in with the SWTS. We've got our podcast links, that's right. What we do on the live stream gets put out one day later on podcasts, all relevant platforms, or at least the cool ones that make you look like you know what you're doing as someone that listens to podcasts. We also have our YouTube links over there, TikTok, Instagram. It's everything. StarWarsTime.net. This is where you can get looped in with the bros, all right? And we need you. We always need you. We always want more because I am a greedy Star Wars podcast host. I need to feel the love. Call me the Tinkerbell of Star Wars fan podcasters. All right, so next week, strap in for the SWTS top Star Wars moments of 2023. Week after that, we're going to have a special episode of Scoundrels for you to listen to. We hope to meet with Zavu and Cert tomorrow evening. And our dungeon master here will take us on another adventure, picking up where we left off in episode 3. Who will Chief Matlou piss off or fuck in this episode? You won't know unless you tune in. That will be our Christmas gift for you. Christmas week, we are out, but we will be delivering content as always. Check for those verticals. Every day I'm putting one out. Seems they're getting worse and worse, but I am committed to do it because Nick and I spent money, and I will make sure that that money is being used. Don't forget, there's always time for Star Wars time. And if you listen to our humble little show, the Force will be with you always.